Chapter 3382. Another 10 seconds passed. Everyone looked at Ling Han, and then looked at Yuan. They all felt that it was very unlikely. Ling Han was definitely not an idiot. On the contrary, he was extremely intelligent and used a lot of tricks. First, he used a pig, then a milk baby, then he used a formation, then a treasured armor, and had already resisted Yuan for 4 seconds. Another 10 seconds didn't seem strange at all. It's different this time. He can't use any tricks and can only rely on his own strength. Resisting for 10 seconds is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. He might even lose his life, someone said. Then why is Ling Han provoking him? Someone didn't understand. Maybe he's getting carried away, or maybe he wants to risk it all for the treasured fruit of life. That's true. If there were so many treasured fruits of life in front of me, I'd be willing to risk it all. In the midst of everyone's heated discussion, Yuan looked coldly at Ling Han. Hong, his blood and qi directly boiled. This time, he wanted to kill Ling Han with a thunderous blow. He wanted to tell these puny humans that compared to the Yao race, they were far too lacking. Ling Han didn't dare to be careless. His blood qi also boiled. Boom! The power in his body surged, and a faint diamond light appeared. It took the form of a human, like an ancient monarch, exuding a terrifying aura. 5 transformations. Blood qi condensed into a human, but Ling Han hadn't reached the 5 or 6 transformations. He had reached the 7 transformations. Although his blood qi still took the form of a human, its aura far surpassed that of a monarch. Yuan couldn't help but reveal a shocked expression. He frowned and didn't attack immediately. Instead, he said, "Blood Qi Emperor, you've reached the 6 transformations. 5 transformations was just a human. How could his aura be as terrifying as a monarch's?" Ling Han was slightly surprised. "You have good eyes." "Oomph," Yuan said proudly. "You think you're the only one who's reached the 6 transformations?" It was said that out of 10 people with 20 meridians, only one could reach the 6 transformations. Although this ratio was a bit low, there were actually quite a few people with 20 meridians. There were at least 20 or 30 of them in the capital. Therefore, there were at least 2 or 3 people who had reached the 6 transformations, and a monster like Hong Tianbu had definitely crossed it. The demon race was very strong, and their overall level of martial art might even be higher than that of the human race. Therefore, they definitely had more geniuses who had reached the 6 changes. Ling Han chuckled. He wasn't at the 6th transformation, but rather, the 7th transformation. That was a level that no one had ever been able to reach. Of course, he wouldn't take the initiative to say it. It would be better to let everyone think that he had undergone 6 transformations. There was no need for him to be in the limelight. He crooked his finger. Yuan revealed a cruel smile. Personally killing a 6 transformation genius should give him a great sense of accomplishment. Xiao, he suddenly rushed out, and before he arrived, he let out a roar. Heaven shaking, incomparably terrifying. This was not a simple roar. It carried an incomparably terrifying deterrent force, and its speed far surpassed the transmission of ordinary sound waves. Lion's roar. Ling Han snorted. With a thought, the blood qi condensed into a humanoid figure above his head and rushed towards Yuan. One of the characteristics of the blood transformation tier was that the baleful qi condensed from blood qi had the effect of intimidating one's heart. This naturally had negligible deterrent force towards the engravement tier, but Ling Han was at the 7th transformation, and having cultivated to this tier, he had even caused a heavenly phenomenon. If one were to say that there was nothing special about his baleful qi, even Ling Han himself wouldn't believe it. Hong, the baleful qi rushed out. This was an aura, and from a certain perspective, it was similar to psychokinesis. Its speed was far above the speed of sound, and it arrived first. The blood qi condensed into a humanoid figure punched out, striking towards Yuan. Yuan scoffed. The 6th transformation was Emperor Blood Qi, and as the baleful qi surged out, there was a crushing aura like that of an emperor. This was indeed very awesome, and even some weaker ultimate bone tier cultivators would be affected. But who was he? Not only was he an engravement tier elite, but he had also cultivated to the 6th transformation. Emperor Blood Chi, was there a need to be concerned? He directly met the attack. He believed that with this roar, Ling Han would definitely enter a state of dizziness. Then, if he followed up with another attack, he would be able to directly send his opponent on his way. This was the suppression of strength. Hong, a frightening baleful chi assaulted him. Yuan Ying could not help but freeze, and an obviously dumbfounded expression appeared on his face. This baleful chi was too frightening, and even he was affected. How was this possible? How could he possibly be affected? However, Yuan Ying was Yuan Ying, after all. Such a frightening baleful chi only affected him slightly, and he immediately recovered. After all, he was an existence of the engravement tier. 3, 4, 5. Ling Han was counting. Just like this, he had already used up half the time. Yuan Ying smirked coldly. Since he had already suffered once, how could he possibly repeat the same mistake? He tapped his foot again, and pang, he exploded out with 4 times the speed of sound. So fast. Ling Han raised his hand, and xiao, a cold light immediately shot towards Yuan Ying. 6 times the speed of sound. A shocked expression involuntarily flashed across Yuan Ying's face, as if he did not believe that Ling Han could unleash an attack that was 6 times the speed of sound. However, he immediately reacted, opening his mouth, and spitting out a ball of fierce flames. High-level energy. This fierce flame was extremely frightening. When the flying sword passed through it, it was actually forcibly burned until it softened. Though it still struck Yuan Ying's body, it had lost its sharpness, and its power was naturally greatly reduced. Yuan Ying's figure practically did not pause, and he once again charged towards Ling Han. This was only the 6th second. Yuan Ying raised his right fist high, a look of cherishing talent in his eyes. To be able to affect him slightly, and even force him to use his ultimate move, this human brat was indeed not simple. If he were a member of the Yao race, Yuan Ying would not mind giving him some guidance, but now, die. His fist descended, merciless. Ling Han gave a long howl, and his figure retreated, his fists swinging repeatedly. Thunder Light Fist. Xiao, 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 xiao. The speed was too fast, and the entire sky was filled with fist imprints. Pung, pung, pung. These fist imprints were the first to meet the lion's roar. Instantly, it was as if they had been compressed, and actually completely changed shape. When the crowd saw this, they could not help but be shocked. So the power of Yuan Ying's roar was actually so terrifying. You can't run, Yuan Ying said with a cold smile. He was 4 times the speed of sound, while Ling Han was only slightly more than twice that. He only needed 1 or 2 seconds to catch up. Ling Han's expression was calm, and his thunderlight fist did not stop. 7 seconds, 8 seconds, 9 seconds. The thunderlight fist still had some effect on Yuan Ying, but when the 9th second was about to end, Yuan Ying still charged in front of Ling Han and punched out. This time, Ling Han had nowhere to retreat. Ling Han's pupils contracted, and he had already activated his eye technique. Yuan Ying's attack immediately became incomparably slow, allowing him to see clearly. He immediately punched out with his right fist, and struck at the weakest point of Yuan Ying's attack. Demon Monkey Fist, frequency attack, 30 stacks, no, 40 stacks. After advancing to the 7th change, he finally had a great breakthrough in the use of the Demon Monkey Fist. Boom, a terrifying demon monkey appeared, towering between heaven and earth, savage and ruthless. Yuan Ying instantly revealed an expression of shock. What? Ling Han could actually use such a terrifying fist technique. Moreover, he had even manifested the form of an ancient demon monkey. Chapter 3384. Now, in addition to the heated discussion about Ling Han blocking Yuan Ying for 10 seconds, everyone in the capital was curious about Zhu Qi's identity. Such a strong man was willing to stay in the palace and be a eunuch? His majesty was too wise and powerful. Ling Han finally returned to the academy. He closed the door and refused to see anyone. He needed to repair his Taoist foundation. Second baby, can you see that old woman? Oh no, that old man Zhu's cultivation? Ling Han asked casually. He was also very curious about Zhu Qi's cultivation. He almost called him an old eunuch, but he wanted to set an example. How could he say such a thing? That old eunuch is from the secret realm, second baby answered. Ling Han couldn't help but sigh. He purposely stopped the word old eunuch. He didn't expect that this little girl didn't need him to teach her bad things at all. What a failure. He didn't want to think about the education of these children. If he wanted to swear, then so be it. It was fine as long as he didn't change his principles. Strange. Why was a strong man from the secret realm willing to be an old eunuch? Look, the 4 marshals and senior grand tutor Hong were so powerful. Why was Zhu Qi willing to hide his name and even cripple one of his legs? Ling Han shook his head and didn't think about it anymore. He took out the treasure fruit of life and continued to eat it to repair his Taoist foundation. After eating 7 fruits in a row, second baby finally nodded and said that his Taoist foundation had been restored. Ling Han was relieved. The white hair only affected his appearance, which he didn't care about. The damage to his Taoist foundation was fatal. It would affect his future. He still had some internal losses, so he continued to eat the treasure fruit of life. After eating another 5, his spirit was finally restored to its peak. Looking in the mirror, he saw that his hair had returned to its black color. There was a kind of flowing light flashing, which made him look extremely powerful. Handsome. Ling Han smiled with satisfaction. He should be completely recovered. Second baby gave him a detailed examination and said, "Father, you still lost about 50 years of life. This is something that even the treasure fruit of life can't repair." Ling Han nodded. Although he had repaired it in time, it was impossible for a broken bottle to be flawless no matter how he glued it back together. He could afford to lose 50 years. At most, he would not break through like this in the future. His next goal was to rush to the peak of the 7 transformations, then break through the extreme bone and embark on a new journey. Unfortunately, he only had the treasure fruit of life with him. He had already eaten all the other treasure fruits, so he could only rely on pills and formations to speed up his cultivation. In fact, this was not considered slow, but Ling Han was already used to the rapid improvement of heavenly treasures. Returning to the rhythm of elixirs and array formations, he naturally felt that the progress was slow. Actually, this was also good. Cultivation should be done step by step. "Father! Father!" Sixth baby ran over. Of course, his voice was not visible. "What's wrong?" Ling Han asked. "Seventh baby has been born," sixth baby said. Ling Han immediately stood up. This guy who was so lazy that he was late to the world had finally come out. He ran over and saw that the last bottle gourd had indeed opened. A little baby crawled out, but it was only halfway through when it hung there. Its upper body was sticking out, but its lower body was still in the bottle gourd. "What's going on?" Ling Han asked. The other 5 babies were all here. "She fell asleep again," eldest baby said helplessly. That's fine too." Ling Han imagined this scene. 7th baby struggled to open the bottle gourd and finally came out. But after climbing halfway, she realized that since she had already come out, there was no hurry. She might as well sleep again. Then, she decisively began to sleep again. Ling Han felt like he was going crazy. How lazy was this 7th baby? He went over and grabbed 7th baby. He saw that this baby was also a beautiful mess. He was the kind of baby that would make people want to dig out their hearts and lungs with just one look. But he was so lazy that it was a terminal illness. Pa Ling Han slapped his butt. He was surprised to find that the power of this slap was absorbed. As long as the power doesn't exceed the limit, 7th baby can absorb it, 2nd baby explained. A special ability for lazy people, 3rd baby commented, still cold and aloof. Ling Han smiled and put 7th baby down. This ability to absorb any kind of power was indeed the most practical ability for lazy people. He couldn't wake it up no matter how much he called it. He planned to study Grandmaster-level matrices and elixirs. Now that his mentality had increased, his complementary abilities had to keep up. Bang bang bang. But hadn't even warmed up when someone knocked on the door. Who was knocking on the door so urgently? He went out to open the door and saw 2 armored officers standing at the door. What was going on? "Ling Han," one of the officers asked. "That's right." Ling Han nodded. "Come with us." Senior Grand Tutor Hong has summoned you. The two officers looked cold and businesslike. Senior Grand Tutor Hong had summoned him. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and come with us. Seeing that Ling Han was still hesitating, one of the officers suddenly showed an impatient expression. Ling Han was displeased and said, "Am I a criminal?" The other officer said proudly, "Senior Grand Tutor Hong has summoned you. How dare you make him wait?" "Ha, if Senior Grand Tutor Hong has summoned me, of course I will go pay my respects," Ling Han said lightly. "But I'm not a criminal. Can't I make preparations?" "Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and go." One of the officers reached out to grab Ling Han. Ling Han shook his head. This person definitely didn't know his specific identity, or else he wouldn't have done this. He just brushed lightly and the officer was pushed back. "How dare you attack a soldier of the Empire?" The officer was angry and embarrassed. Ling Han had dared to attack him, and he wasn't a match at all. "You're so careless. It's good enough that I didn't hit you," Ling Han said lightly. He called the little servant girl over, and after giving her some instructions, he said to the two officers, "Let's go." The two officers looked at him with dissatisfaction. This person was too arrogant. He dared to make them and Senior Grand Tutor Hong wait for so long. Just wait and see. They couldn't do anything about it. After seeing Senior Grand Tutor Hong, could he still be so arrogant? Under the guidance of the two officers, Ling Han arrived at the Hong residence. Hong Tianbu had walked out of this place, becoming a heaven-suppressing monster with an illustrious reputation. Ling Han paused for a moment before starting again. The two officers looked at each other and smiled, thinking that Ling Han was finally afraid. This was natural. The Hong residence was a dignified place second only to the Imperial Palace. It had the senior Grand Tutor and an engravement realm expert. Ling Han followed the two into the Hong residence, and after a few turns he finally arrived outside a study. An officer knocked on the door and said respectfully, "Sir, I've brought Ling Han here. Come in." A voice came from inside. The officer pushed the door open and raised his chin at Ling Han, indicating for him to enter. Ling Han smiled and walked in. Behind him, the two military officers closed the door again and stood solemnly on both sides as if they were guarding the door. Chapter 3385. This was a study. Other than rows of bookshelves, there was also a desk, and Senior Tutor Hong was sitting behind it. Senior Tutor Hong. Ling Han cupped his fists. Senior Tutor Hong raised his head to look at Ling Han. "A few days ago, did you go to the Eternal Moon ancient ruins?" Ling Han's heart jumped. "Here it comes." He nodded. "I did." Senior Tutor Hong stared at him. "I just received news that you killed Jining City Lord Yu. Is that true?" "That's right, it's true." Ling Han nodded again. "Good, since you've admitted it, there's nothing more to say. According to the laws of the Empire, anyone who kills an official of the Empire will be executed," Senior Tutor Hong said coldly. What did he mean by there was nothing more to say? Ling Han laughed. "Lord, I have something to say." "What do you want to say? Are you going back on your word?" Senior Tutor Hong asked. "The laws of the Empire also say that in the ancient ruins, everyone is an ordinary treasure seeker. Even the princes are no different from the commoners." Ling Han continued, "I did indeed kill Yu Yi, but at that time, he wasn't the lord of Jining City. He was just an ordinary explorer. Furthermore, if you really want to punish me, it should be the Grand Council Elder. Isn't Lord Hong's hand stretching too far?" Senior Tutor Hong almost flipped the table. Who was he? Before the demon race had appeared, he was the strongest existence below the Saint Emperor. The only people who could stand shoulder to shoulder with him were the four marshals, the Grand Council Elder Yang Bai, and a few others. Now, the four marshals and the others could only stand on equal footing with him. It was just that a few of the princes who were ranked at the top had suddenly soared to the sky, their battle strength reaching the opening realm. Even so, how could a mere blood transformation have the right to be so impudent in front of him? "How dare you!" he shouted. Bang! The door was also pushed open. The two officers held their weapons and aimed them at Ling Han. Ling Han smiled calmly and asked, "My lord, what did I say wrong?" I really don't have the power to enforce the law. Grand Tutor Hong waved his hand at the two officers, indicating for them to leave. When the door closed again, he said, "However, as the Grand Tutor of the Empire, can't I even ask?" Of course the Grand Preceptor asked, but this one also answered very clearly. Ling Han said, "Neither servile nor overbearing." Also, "Did you kill Hong Taichen?" Senior Tutor Hong's expression turned severe. Ling Han shrugged. "What Hong Taichen?" Senior Tutor Hong stared at him as if he wanted to see through his body and into his heart. "It's fine. I'll lock you up in prison and torture you. I believe you will tell me." Instantly, a ball of fury rose in Ling Han's heart. "If you want to torture me, then torture me." He turned on the optical computer and showed the ugly faces of Yu Yi's family, then said, "I just released this video." Senior Tutor Hong was enraged. This brat actually dared to do something in front of him? He could see clearly that Yu Yi's family had indeed gone overboard. They were practically forcing Ling Han to start a massacre. Who could they blame for this? There were no princes or generals in the historical site, only ordinary adventurers. This was what the Saint Emperor had personally said, and it was written in the law. He snorted. "You killed the Empire's city lord. How can we believe your one-sided story?" The door opened again, and the two officers walked in. "Take this person to prison," Senior Tutor Hong said. He knew that Ling Han was extremely powerful and wasn't someone these two officers could fight against. However, he wasn't worried. It would be best if Ling Han really injured someone and escaped. That would be a huge crime for Ling Han. Ling Han smiled. Don't think that he was only in his 20s, he was an old monster who had lived for countless years. How could he not see through Senior Tutor Hong's intentions? He didn't resist at all and left with the two officers. At this time, he didn't try to fight back. Creak, the door closed again. Senior Tutor Hong revealed a trace of killing intent. This youth was too monstrous and had reached the level of threatening Hong Tianbu. He definitely wouldn't allow such a thing to happen. He would use this chance to get rid of this youth. Ling Han obediently went to the imperial prison under the escort of the two officers. Who asked you to be so arrogant? You really are an idiot to dare oppose Senior Tutor Hong. The two officers sneered. A thought flashed through Ling Han's mind. Pa! A rock flew out from behind, smashing towards the two officers. The two officers let out miserable cries. They were only at the blood transformation realm, so how could they defend against Ling Han's psychokinesis attack? The two of them staggered. Luckily, Ling Han had controlled his strength. Otherwise, even if it was a blunt rock, it would still be fatal if it was smashed at high speed. Who was sneak attacking them? The two of them stopped and looked behind them. However, the street was deserted, and there wasn't anyone there. How strange. Ling Han couldn't help but laugh. These two were like foxes borrowing the tiger's might. How could he not teach them a lesson? What are you laughing at? The two of them couldn't find the sneak attacker, so they shouted at Ling Han in embarrassment. They didn't know that the person in front of them was the culprit. Ling Han said unhurriedly, "The gods are watching. Be careful of being punished by the heavens for being disrespectful to me." Who do you think you are? One of the officers sneered. You think you're amazing just because you're a student of Emperor Academy? You're just lucky. In the past, a commoner like you wouldn't even have the right to enter the academy. The other officer also started to look down on him. Ling Han shook his head. Shio, two more small rocks flew into the air and smashed towards the backs of the two officers. Ping, ping, under the high speed, the impact of the two rocks was so powerful that they immediately smashed the two officers to the ground. The two of them couldn't help but be shocked. Just who was attacking them? It was impossible for Ling Han. First, they were facing each other. How could they attack from behind? Second, they hadn't seen Ling Han make a move. Could it be that there was really a ghost? If not, how could such a strange thing be explained? To their horror, the two rocks on the ground floated into the air and then flew towards them. Ping, ping, the two of them were smashed to the ground again. Several of their teeth fell out. If it was Shenyuan Dinghua and the others, then they would definitely have guessed that there was a spiritual power master nearby who could use his mind to move objects. But to these two officers, their knowledge was limited. How could they know so much? They were trembling with fear. Something that was beyond common sense, in their eyes, was naturally related to gods and ghosts. You saw it, right? The two of them asked Ling Han. What did I see? Ling Han pretended to be surprised. Didn't you see such a big rock flying? The two of them were going crazy. What rock? Ling Han felt that his acting skills were quite good. There was really a ghost, there was definitely a ghost. Otherwise, how could Ling Han not have seen it? The two of them looked up at the sky. Was there really a god above their heads? Chapter 3386. Let's go. What are you waiting for? Ling Han said, striding forward. The two officers gritted their teeth. Were they the ones escorting Ling Han, or was Ling Han the one escorting them? The two were stunned for a moment before realizing that they had to chase after Ling Han. After walking for another 20 minutes, they arrived at the Imperial Prison. Stop! Of course, the Imperial Prison was heavily guarded. Those who could be locked up here were not nobodies. Without status, they could not be locked up even if they wanted to. Who are you? A guard walked out. Ling Han smiled and said, Oh, I'm here on Grandmaster Hong's orders to send someone to the Imperial Prison. Grand Tutor Hong, the guard gave an oh and asked, Where is he? It's me. Ling Han pointed at himself. The guard almost spat out his saliva. Look at you, you don't look like you came to the Imperial Prison. How can you be so calm? Look, the two soldiers behind you are cowering in fear. They look exactly like your subordinates. Could they be the ones escorting you? Don't joke, he said. Ling Han's expression also turned serious. I'm not joking. Is that so? The guard looked at the two officers. Indeed. The two officers nodded, but they were still worried about ghosts and gods. They shrunk their heads in fear. Where's the order? The guard asked. One of the officers showed the order and handed it to the guard. The guard read it carefully, and his expression became even more strange. It was true. Ling Han was the person who was going to be sent to the Imperial Prison. But the problem was, who could be so relaxed when faced with such a thing, as if it was a holiday? Then let's go through the procedures first. The guard nodded. After a set of procedures, Ling Han was officially sent to the Imperial Prison. However, the Imperial Prison was different from ordinary prisons. The people here could be executed the next day, and their entire clan would be buried with them. But they could also be released immediately and promoted to nobility. Therefore, Ling Han's belongings were not confiscated. If Ling Han's belongings were confiscated, he would definitely resist. Because at that time, if someone gave him another gourd, who could he reason with? However, his photon computer had been removed, preventing him from contacting the outside world. Ling Han didn't care because Sixth Baby was always with him. Dad, I'll call Big Baby and the rest over. Let's tear down this prison together and destroy this imperial capital, Sixth Baby said excitedly. She was not angry about the fact that Ling Han had been locked up. She was only excited to fight. Fuck, what exactly did these milk babies experience in the gourd? Could they not be so violent? Although Ling Han couldn't see Sixth Baby's expression, he was sure that he was so excited that his face was red. Sigh, raising so many children is really stressful. He hurriedly said, No need, no need. Now, no, tomorrow, go to the headquarters of the Formation Path and the Alchemy Path respectively. Find the presidents and leave them a message. No fighting. Sixth Baby was instantly disappointed. You'll have to beat me up in the future. Ling Han could only promise. Only then did Sixth Baby regain her spirits and run away. Ling Han was calm. He believed that Senior Grand Tutor Hong's target was not as simple as Yu Yi or Hong Taichin. He wanted to trample on him until he was beyond redemption. In this way, he naturally wouldn't be able to threaten Hong Tianbu. The Hong family, oh Hong family. Was there still no way to avoid a fight? Ling Han smiled faintly. Along the way, he had never been afraid of anyone. Originally, he had wanted to compete fairly with Hong Tianbu. For geniuses like him, only with a strong competitor would they be able to stimulate a stronger fighting spirit. Otherwise, how could the rest of them burn with such mediocre fighting spirit? However, Since Senior Grand Tutor Hong had broken the rules first, then he would fight with the Hong family. The news of Ling Han being sent to the imperial prison quickly spread within the corresponding range. Killing the empire's city lord was a huge crime, and it was immediately reported to Yang Bai. Then, as the news spread through the grapevine, it spread like wildfire among the circle of rich second generations in the imperial capital. However, this matter was too sensitive. Yang Bai immediately ordered that no one was allowed to visit him. He would choose a day to personally conduct the trial. Early the next morning, Ling Han practiced as usual. He wouldn't give up just because he was locked up. After half an hour, he slowly called it a day. After a while, he heard footsteps. At first, he thought that it was the prison guards delivering food, but the footsteps stopped when they reached his cell. There was no more movement. Ling Han opened his eyes and looked at the person. It was a young man. He looked quite handsome, had a slender figure, and exuded confidence and arrogance. Ling Han glanced at him, then closed his eyes again. Acting cool in front of him? The young man couldn't help but be stunned. Why you like this? Do you know how many people can enter the imperial prison now? Do you know how much energy is needed? When you see me, you shouldn't be so agitated and ask for my identity. Let me take my time and force you. But Ling Han's reaction directly caused his aura to plummet to the point where not even the slightest bit remained. Ahem. He cleared his throat to attract Ling Han's attention. This young master is Jin Shaojian. Ling Han nodded. You're like this? How can you not react after a single "oh"? Jin Shaojian immediately felt the urge to go crazy. Ling Han clearly hadn't hit him, scolded him, or looked down on him, but he felt like he had suffered 10,000 points of damage. From his point of view, no matter how much of a genius Ling Han was, he was still an ordinary person. In front of the Jin family's foundation, he was insignificant. Thus, he had a strong sense of superiority. But now, that sense of superiority was completely useless. Ling Han, do you know what kind of situation you're in? Jin Shaojian suppressed his anger and asked in a low voice. Isn't it obvious? Ling Han laughed. I'm sitting in the imperial prison. So you know. Jin Shaojian snorted. You're really daring. You even dared to kill the empire's city lord. Do you know that you're already a corpse waiting for your sentence? Ling Han looked at him and said, Can you save me? Of course. Jin Shaojian said proudly. Finally, he got to the point. Come beg me. Ling Han looked at Jin Shaojian. Was there a power like the Jin family in the capital? The four marshals weren't surnamed Jin, nor was the head of conference. It was even more impossible for the Hong family. Then who else could go against Senior Tutor Hong and fish him out of the imperial prison? Wait a minute, when he was buying the materials for the Formation Foundation, he had met someone called Jin Sanin. This Jin Shaojian couldn't be related to Jin Sanin, right? Ling Han was curious. What right do you have to fish me out? What right do you have to go against Senior Tutor Hong? You don't even know how strong our Jin family is. Jin Shaojian snorted. Even 10 senior tutors together aren't worthy of carrying shoes for our Jin family. So powerful? Ling Han's heart shook. Was this a hidden family? They weren't famous, but they didn't even put engravement realm experts in their eyes. Yep, if he could fish them out properly. Ling Han smiled and said, I don't believe it. Since they're so strong, why haven't I heard of them before? Chapter 3388. Qi Liandong arrived first. Seeing dozens of people approach aggressively, the guards of the prison instantly tensed up. Fuck, someone actually wanted to raid the prison? This was unprecedented. Stop! A captain was forced to appear, holding a spear in his hand as he shouted, This is the forbidden area of the prison. Unrelated people are not allowed to approach. Qi Liandong humphed and said, I am the president of the Alchemy Association headquarters, Qi Liandong. Do you dare to stop me? The captain jumped in fright. The president of the Alchemy Association headquarters. What an awesome big shot. However, was it real or fake? He secretly searched for Qi Liandong's information on his optical computer, and a photo immediately popped up. As expected, it was the appearance of the old man in front of him. However, in this day and age, Just a resemblance did not mean it was real. Makeup and disguise techniques could completely pass off the fake as the real one. The captain smiled and said, "May I ask what Lord is doing here?" This was the prison, not a place for alchemists to appear. "What?" Qi Liandong smiled coldly. "I want someone." "You came to the prison to ask for someone? Fuck, you want to raid the prison? Lord, don't joke around." The captain wiped his cold sweat and hurriedly contacted his superiors. This was the president of the Alchemy Association headquarters, not someone he could afford to offend. "I'm joking with you." Qi Liandong laughed coldly. "Are you worthy?" He was not usually so aggressive, but who asked Ling Han to be imprisoned here? How could he still have a good temper? The captain could only swallow this slap in the face. Who asked him to be so weak in front of a grandmaster alchemist? However, guarding the prison was his duty, and he would not allow Qi Liandong to barge in to fish someone out. He hurriedly said, "May I know who Lord is looking for?" He would try to stall for time. As long as he could stall until the people from above arrived, he would have nothing to do. "Ling Han," Qi Liandong said in a low voice. "I'll give you 10 minutes. I want to see the person, or else I'll have to force my way in." "Lord, please calm down, please calm down." The captain hurriedly smiled apologetically, but in his heart he was screaming why the people from above hadn't arrived yet. He said all he could to deal with Qi Liandong, saying that he had already sent someone to communicate with him, and asked Qi Liandong to wait. After a while, the supervisor of the imperial prison finally arrived. Shi Boyi, an extreme bone realm expert, had been guarding the imperial prison for 7 years. The moment Shi Boyi appeared, he ran towards Qi Liandong with a warm smile on his face. Qi Liandong ignored them. Even if the 4 marshals and senior tutor Hong were to come, he wouldn't give them any face, let alone the ultimate bone realm experts and the heavenly dragon head. This was the transcendence of alchemists. "Lord Qi, what's wrong? Who made you unhappy?" Shi Boyi asked with a smile. Qi Liandong sneered and said, "My patience has run out. Release Ling Han now, or I'll bring him out myself." "Sir, aren't you making things difficult for me?" Shi Boyi spread out his hands. "Ling Han is a felon sent over by senior tutor Hong, and Sir Yang has also said that without his orders, no one is allowed to meet Ling Han privately. If you want me to release him, I really can't do anything about it. Then scram to the side. Don't be a hindrance," Qi Liandong snorted, extremely domineering. All the alchemists were secretly pleased. Although they did have to lower themselves when refining pills for others, it was definitely not as flashy as it was now. As expected of the president, awesome and domineering. How could Shi Boyi just sit back and watch? He was the supervisor of the imperial prison. If he just watched as others broke into the prison, he wouldn't just be scolded. This was a dereliction of duty, and he would be punished for it. "Sir, please calm down. Let's first inform the elder of this matter." He stopped Qi Liandong. No matter what, he couldn't let the other party break into the prison. Fortunately, although Qi Liandong was a 4-star alchemist on the same level as the 4 marshals, his battle prowess was only at the extreme bone realm. With the battle prowess of an alchemist, he could block it. Qi Liandong was so angry that his beard was trembling. A mere warden actually dared to stop him. Bastard! The old man blew his beard and glared, extremely frustrated. Old man Qi, what's wrong?" An aged voice rang out. Qi Liandong was startled and turned to look. Wasn't this Qin Hao's old rival? However, this time, Qi Liandong didn't get angry. Instead, he felt that reinforcements had arrived. He hurriedly said, "Old man Qin, did you also come because you received news from Ling Han?" "Of course. He's the person I value the most," Qin Hao said proudly. Qin Hao proudly said, he and Qi Liandong had been fighting for their entire lives, competing in everything. But now, he finally had the upper hand. That was because Qi Liandong clearly couldn't break through. Alchemists were trash. "Then blast this place open for me." Qi Liandong roared angrily. He had been stopped by Shi Boyi time and time again, and he was already furious. Old man Qi, are you begging me?" Chen Hao said smugly. "Ling Han is locked inside. See for yourself." Qi Liandong snorted. Thinking of Ling Han, Chen Hao couldn't be bothered to argue with Qi Liandong anymore. He shouted, "Set up the formation." The array master he'd brought immediately began setting up the foundation of the formation. Shi Boyi watched with trepidation. No matter how troublesome an alchemist was, his destructive power was limited. At the same level, alchemists were trash. It was normal for them to be defeated by someone who was 2 or 3 minor realms higher. But array masters were different. Once the formation was set up, it was normal for someone who was 2 or 3 minor realms higher to defeat their opponent. However, who would give the array master enough time to set up the formation during a battle? But the problem now was, would he dare to initiate an attack on an array master? Attacking an array master? That would be enough to kill him. You want to say that Chen Hao and the others attacked the prison? What a joke, they didn't even activate the formation. Weren't they just playing around? Shi Boyi gritted his teeth and said, "Sirs, please calm down. I'll let Ling Han out right now." Letting Ling Han out was better than raising the prison, right? Moreover, the 2 presidents had joined hands to demand for Ling Han. Their reputation was no greater than Senior Grand Tutor Hong's. "How lowly! You won't listen to my kind words," Qi Liandong said coldly. "That's because you don't have enough face." Chen Hao took the opportunity to attack. Shi Boyi was speechless. He made an inviting gesture and led the 2 presidents into the prison. Of course, even if he was given 10,000 guts, he wouldn't dare to make a move in the prison and capture the 2 presidents to threaten the alchemists and array masters outside. The 3 of them entered the prison. Under Shi Boyi's lead, they walked all the way to Ling Han's cell. The imperial prison was actually not that big, because there were not many people who were qualified to enter the imperial prison. Moreover, the current emperor was so wise and powerful he would not create any unjust prison, and not many people would dare to rebel, so there was absolutely no need for a big place. Soon, they arrived at Ling Han's cell. "HM?" Jin Shaojian turned to look. What was going on? Chapter 3389. Although Jin Shaojian was very arrogant, his knowledge was definitely not ordinary. How could he not recognize Qi Liandong and Chen Hao? What were these 2 doing here? Jin Shaojian actually did not take Qi Liandong and Chen Hao seriously, but he had to admit that in Xianbei country, these 2 could definitely be considered important figures. Thus, it was very strange for these 2 important figures to enter the imperial prison hand in hand. This was not a place to eat or gather. Could it be? A guess flashed through his mind, but he immediately shook his head. How could that be possible? Who said that without Yang Bai's permission, no one can see Ling Han? Qi Liandong also saw Jin Shaojian and immediately pointed at him as he asked Shi Boyi, "Then who is this important person?" Shi Boyi was also a little confused. He did not know this person. But the problem was, if this person did not have some background, how could he appear here with such a leisurely expression, as if this was his own backyard? He was really troubled. Just who was this Ling Han, and why had he alarmed so many people? "Who are you?" Shi Boyi shouted at Jin Shaojian. "You don't need to know who this young master is." "I am not qualified," Jin Shaojian said calmly. Shi Boyi instantly exploded in anger. This was his territory, and this person dared to usurp the host's position. But before he could fly into a rage, Qi Liandong pressed him down and said, "Stop talking nonsense and release him immediately." Shi Boyi felt that he was a complete tragedy. Logically speaking, this was his territory, and he should be the one in charge. But now, both of them were looking down on him. How could he endure this? There was no helping it. Who asked these 2 to be masters? He waved his hand and said to the guard, "Open the door and release him." Jin Shaojian looked on, but did not say anything. He was clearly very surprised. No wonder Ling Han was so confident. So it turned out that he had the support of the 2 presidents. He sneered. They were only 4-star alchemists and formation masters. In the previous civilization, they were nothing. It was only now that the great Tao had awakened, and everything was starting from zero. That was why 4-star alchemists and formation masters were being praised so highly. Count yourself lucky this time. Jin Shaojian threw a few words at Ling Han before swaggering off. If it weren't for Qi Liandong and Jin Shaojin's presence, Shi Boyi would definitely have rushed up and grabbed Jin Shaojin, asking him who he was and who had let him in. However, with the two guild leaders present, Shi Boyi didn't have the heart to bother with Jin Shaojin. He only hoped that these two guild leaders would leave as soon as possible. Ling Han chuckled. Jin family? He would remember it. He walked out of the cell and nodded at Qi Liandong and the other two. Thank you, presidents. You didn't suffer much, did you? Qi Liandong quickly asked. If anyone dares mistreat you, I'll tear them to pieces, said Shin Hao viciously. Shi Boyi was immediately alarmed, afraid that Ling Han would say something bad about him. Ling Han smiled and said, the food is good, the accommodation is good, and it's quiet here. I'll just take it as a vacation and rest. That's good then. The two guild leaders smiled in unison. Let's go. The three of them left, and Shi Boyi began to investigate who had let Jin Shaojin in, and whether this place was still under his control. Ling Han first went to the Array Guild headquarters because it was close by. He decided to get certified as a Grandmaster level Array Master. What? You've reached Grandmaster level? Chen Hao was pleasantly surprised. Ling Han nodded and said, I'll give it a try. He didn't promise too much. However, under the witness of several dozen Array Masters, he successfully created a Grandmaster level Array Foundation and successfully set it up and activated it. When he created the 33 layers Vajra array, he had actually already stepped into Grandmaster level. Qi Liandong was very jealous and said, Brat, you've spent so much time on Array Dao that you've even neglected alchemy. Ling Han smiled and said, How could that be? Let's go to the Alchemy Guild headquarters. I'll get certified as a Grandmaster level alchemist. That's fine too? Everyone was speechless. You're too freakish, aren't you? Who would go and get certified as a Grandmaster level Array Master right after? Freakish is freakish. Ling Han went to the Alchemy Guild headquarters and successfully refined a cauldron of 4-star pills. This meant that he had reached the pinnacle of alchemy and could stand shoulder to shoulder with Qi Liandong. With these two identities, would anyone in Xianbei country dare to touch him? Senior Tutor Hong's status was only comparable to his. Considering that Ling Han was an Array Master and an alchemist at the same time, even someone like Senior Tutor Hong paled in comparison to him. Ling Han returned to the academy. The amount of time he could stay here could be counted on his fingers. Dad, that Senior Tutor Hong is too despicable. Eldest baby immediately cried out. We can't let it go just like that. Second baby also said. Beat him up. Seventh baby said, but immediately yawned. Let me sleep for a while. I'll wake up when the fight starts. Pa. She collapsed and fell asleep as soon as she said she would. Ling Han nodded. We can't just swallow this loss. However, it's not appropriate to fight Senior Tutor Hong head-on. After all, this is Xianbei country. We still have to stay here for a while. He thought about it. The Hong family should have a lot of business. Tonight, we'll destroy all of their businesses. Sit. The group of babies immediately became excited. They were too passionate about destroying things. Ling Han first contacted Xianyuan Dinghua and asked him to list out all of the Hong family's businesses. Xianyuan Dinghua was definitely more familiar with this. Several major powers fought openly and covertly, and Xianyuan Dinghua was definitely familiar with the Hong family's information. As expected, Xianyuan Dinghua didn't hesitate and immediately sent the information over. After that, Xianyuan Dinghua exclaimed, Weren't you locked up in the heavenly prison? Yes, I just got out. Ling Han smiled. How did you get out? Xianyuan Dinghua was shocked. You didn't escape, did you? Escape your head. Ling Han scolded. Then, he said, I'll find you for a drink in 2 days. After that, he turned off the optical computer. He turned back to look at the babies and said, Move out tonight. Everyone else, go into the gourd and let 6th baby lead them. We want the Hong family to know that we did it, but they won't be able to get any evidence. We'll make them depressed. The milk babies were all excited. They loved destroying things the most. Fuck them. 7th baby mumbled. So he was talking in his sleep. Sigh, was this group of brats led astray by him? Ling Han couldn't help but reflect on himself. That night, Sixth baby took advantage of the darkness to move out with the gourd. They came to the Hong family's first business and found a secluded corner to let them out. Then, they immediately began to destroy. After settling one place, they went to another. In just one night, they destroyed 13 of the Hong family's businesses. There were no deaths. They were all knocked unconscious and nothing was seen. Early the next morning, Senior Tutor Hong received the news. Bang! He struck out with his palm, and the desk beneath him instantly shattered into pieces. Ling Han. He gritted his teeth and cursed. Chapter 3390. Senior Tutor Hong was certain that this was all done by Ling Han. Otherwise, how could there be such a coincidence? Oh, Ling Han had just been released from the imperial prison, and the Hong family's business had been in trouble that night. However, he could not produce any evidence. There were surveillance cameras in every corner of the capital, and it was clear that Ling Han had not left the academy. Since he had not left, how could he have caused damage? But Senior Tutor Hong was certain that even if Ling Han did not do it himself, he had ordered someone else to do it. This fellow only knew a few people in the capital. Senior Tutor Hong immediately sent people to investigate. As long as he caught the troublemaker last night, he would be able to follow the clues and find Ling Han. He would definitely not let Ling Han off. But after 3 days he still could not find the troublemaker that night. There was not even a single clue. It was as if these people had appeared out of thin air, or perhaps they were invisible. None of the surveillance cameras had detected anything out of the ordinary. Senior Tutor Hong was helpless and could only focus on the matter of Ling Han killing the governor of the empire. But Yang Bai quickly responded. It was indeed Yu Yi who had caused trouble first. Of course, it would have been better if Ling Han had not killed him. No matter what, it was definitely wrong for Ling Han to kill the city lord of the empire. But considering that he was already a Grandmaster level array master and an alchemist, with his dual identities, even Yang Bai would not dare to do anything to Ling Han. To sentence Ling Han, only the emperor himself could do so. Otherwise, even the eldest prince and the second prince, who were highly ranked princes, would not be able to do anything to him. This meant that Ling Han had easily covered up this matter. Senior Tutor Hong was speechless. Now that Ling Han had the protection of a Grandmaster Array Master and an alchemist, even he could not do anything to him. As long as such a person did not commit treason and the emperor did not say anything, who would dare to do anything to him? However, Ling Han's counterattack did not stop there. Not only did he destroy all of the Hong family's businesses once, he would also destroy any of the Hong family's businesses that were rebuilt. This kind of small matter could be left to sixth baby, so there was no need to worry about a gourd floating in the air and arousing suspicion. When the news spread, everyone knew that it was Ling Han who did it. Otherwise, how could there be such a coincidence? However, no one could directly link Ling Han to the troublemaker. This made the people of the imperial capital surprised. How did Ling Han do it? On the first day, the Hong family wasn't on guard. But from the second day onwards, every property of the Hong family was heavily guarded. Not only were the properties destroyed, but they didn't even see a single person. This was too strange. Ling Han did not think much of it. Anyway, this had already become sixth baby's daily routine. When he was happy, he would make a fuss. When he was unhappy, he would make a fuss. With the help of the array and elixirs, Ling Han calculated that he would need about 3 months to reach the peak of the 7 changes. Previously, he had broken through too many shackles, and his life level had increased to a terrifying level. This gave him a lot of room for improvement. Therefore, without the windfall, he would need a whole 3 months to reach the peak. Just as Ling Han was searching for information about the new historical sites, something big happened. It was really something big, and it was closely related to him. The demon race sent out an envoy again, but this time, it was not a peaceful visit. Instead, it was an ultimatum. Hand over Ling Han, or else, see you on the battlefield. It was simple, but very domineering. This caused a huge uproar in the imperial capital. Why did the demon race value Ling Han so much? In terms of monstrous talent, Hong Tianbu was not inferior to Ling Han at all. Previously, he had defeated the demon race's fifth prince even though he was an entire realm above him. But the demon race did not want Hong Tianbu, but only wanted Ling Han. When Ling Han heard the news, he immediately guessed that it was because of the demon monkey fist. The demon race coveted the demon monkey fist, so they wanted to capture him and torture out the secrets of the demon monkey fist. But no matter what the demon race wanted with Ling Han, their threat was real. Hand over Ling Han or not. If not, they would fight. The demon race had already displayed their powerful strength. This was a real threat. Once a war broke out, let alone whether the Xianbei country could withstand it, it would at least be an incomparably difficult battle. Who knew how many people would die? And what if they lost? The Xianbei country would become the demon race's paradise, and all humans would become the demon race's slaves and even their food. But what if it was just Ling Han sacrificing himself? Many people immediately made suggestions to the imperial court, hoping that Ling Han would step forward and sacrifice himself for the greater good. These people spoke eloquently, saying that Ling Han's source was already damaged, and it was impossible for him to break through to the ultimate bone realm. Then, if he could sacrifice a blood transformation realm warrior in exchange for peace, why not do it? Why must tens of thousands of soldiers bleed and be sacrificed? They were all pressuring Ling Han with righteousness, wanting Ling Han to sacrifice himself for the masses. Of course, there were also many who objected. That was, Ling Han was now a grandmaster alchemist and a ray master. So what if his source was destroyed? It would not affect his monstrous talent. What if the demon race also took a fancy to Ling Han and sent him to the Yu dynasty to teach array skills and alchemy? Finally, there were the warmongers. They submitted a petition, requesting war with the demon race. The sage emperor was in seclusion, and no one could report to him. The decision on this matter fell to the head of the council, Yang Bai. To hand it over, or not to hand it over? That was the question. Yang Bai felt a headache coming on. He felt that Ling Han was really a troublemaker. The matter of killing the empire's city lord had not been completely resolved, and this guy was now being targeted by the demon race. Couldn't he just settle down a little? Yang Bai didn't make a decision lightly. This wasn't a joking matter. If he handed over the man, he could avoid a war, but Xianbei country's reputation would naturally fall to rock bottom. Moreover, the demon race had tasted the sweetness of victory and would continue to threaten them in the future. But if he did not hand over the man, there would be a bloody war that would ensue. 100 years ago, when the world first changed, monsters appeared in large numbers, causing a catastrophe for mankind. At least 99% of the people died, and now not even a tenth had recovered. Another bloody war was about to ensue. Who knew how many people would die? Yang Bai did not dare to make this decision lightly. He immediately contacted the four marshals and the high-ranking princes to discuss the matter. However, Ling Han was already forbidden from leaving the academy. The meaning was clear. They were afraid that if they made the decision to hand over the man, Ling Han would run away and not be able to complete the task. Ling Han sneered. If he really wanted to escape, all he had to do was enter the spirit-nourishing gourd and let sixth baby carry him away. Who would find out? He wanted to see what the final result would be. If they handed over the man, then he would leave immediately. If it was the other way around, then he would stay and fight the demon race together. The four great commanders and the princes who were ranked highly were currently rushing back, but they needed time, at least 4 or 5 days. During this period of time, there were many people who continuously jumped about, not feeling the slightest bit restless. They wanted to create pressure from public opinion, to form public opinion before a decision was made. Chapter 3392. Jin Sanin was slightly taken aback. Were they talking about him? But Ling Han hadn't named him, so he naturally couldn't put his face on it. Although Chen Fengyan is extraordinary, the demon race has no lack of experts. There must be someone who can fight against him, he said. He didn't look favorably on Chen Fengyan. Ling Han chuckled. This old man had been preaching about the strength of the demon race. It seemed that it had penetrated deep into his bones, and he couldn't help but become a slave. I have full faith in His Majesty. The demon race is nothing to him. Jean Sanin stared at Ling Han for a while before saying, "Young friend, once you make your decision, it will be impossible to save you after you are sent to the demon race." "I made my own decision, so I naturally won't regret it," said Ling Han. "Fine. If that's the case, then I won't disturb you any longer." Jean Sanyan's figure flashed, and he left angrily. In his view, Ling Han had already fallen into a desperate situation. As long as he extended a helping hand, Ling Han would definitely eagerly grab it and ask for any conditions. But Ling Han was actually so stubborn. He had not expected this, and was also very displeased. He didn't kill Ling Han for two reasons. First, the purpose of the hidden family was to keep a low profile as much as possible. Second, he was still hoping that Ling Han would lower his head. This boy had outstanding attainments in alchemy and arrays, and he really wanted to recruit him into the Jean family. With a super support and that innate divine body, the Jean family could rise in the coming era. But things didn't seem to be going well. Ling Han refused to submit, and that innate divine body couldn't be found. Was this some kind of warning from the heavens to the Jean family? "Father, let's kill our way out." Eldest baby was murderous. "Yes, let's kill them all," said fourth baby. "Kill until the ground is covered in blood," said fifth baby. "Girls shouldn't kill all day. Be reserved," said Ling Han with a smile. All the Calabash brothers rolled their eyes at Ling Han. What was being reserved? They had never heard of such a thing. "Dad, what do you plan to do?" second baby asked. She was also the most rational of the 7 children, although she was terrible at counting. Ling Han smiled. "Let's see what Yang Bai and the others decide first." He believed that if Chen Fengyan came out of seclusion, there was no doubt that this Saint Emperor would start a war without hesitation. If he didn't even have this bit of aggressiveness, what kind of Saint Emperor was he? But under Chen Fengyan, the other people's horizons were smaller. Therefore, he really could not be sure what the final outcome would be. The night passed, and early in the morning, someone knocked on the door. The little maidservant went to open the door. Immediately, 3 imperial guards barged in, led by Gu Xiangming. "Where's Ling Han?" Gu Xiangming asked proudly. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. The little maid said weakly, "Why are you looking for young master?" "What?" Gu Xiangming sneered. "I was ordered to arrest her." Huan Shui was shocked and said hurriedly, "Young master didn't commit any crime. Why are you arresting him?" "Whether he committed a crime or not is not up to you." Gu Xiangming sneered and waved his hand. "Hurry up and call him out. Don't waste our precious time." He walked forward directly. Huan Shui tried to stop him, but how could she? She was only at the first transformation, but Gu Xiangming was at the 4th transformation. There was a huge gap between their strength. Stuff. She hurriedly chased after him. Clang, clang. The other 2 imperial guards pulled out the sabers at their waists at the same time and stared at Huan Shui coldly. If she dared to take another step forward, they would brandish their sabers and kill her. What a joke! The imperial guards were ordered to do something. Who dared to stop them? They could kill without mercy. Huan Shui was anxious. How could she care less? She immediately charged forward. The 2 imperial guards snorted and slashed at her with their sabers. Clang, clang, clang. The 3 immediately started fighting. Fortunately, Huan Shui was not weak. She could hold on for a while. Moreover, there were 7 Calabash brothers. They would not let anything happen to her. Gu Xiangming walked towards the main hall. A smile appeared at the corners of his mouth, and then his smile grew wider and wider. Ling Han's reputation grew. Not only did he win first place in the great hunting competition, he repeatedly defeated the geniuses of the Yao race. Later on, he was even crowned with the titles of Grandmaster Alchemist and Formation Master. With this kind of halo, he had thought that it would be impossible for him to take revenge in this lifetime. He did not even dare to make an enemy out of Ling Han. If he ran into Ling Han in the future, he could only take a detour. Unexpectedly, the Yao race had actually helped him greatly. Now, several important figures had plans to hand over Ling Han, and if Ling Han entered the Yao race, would he still have a good life? Thus, he came impatiently. He wanted to personally escort Ling Han back. He believed that this kind of pleasure would make him excited for a few days. Ah, Ling Han, oh Ling Han, you have finally fallen into my hands. Ling Han, hurry up and follow me. Get lost. Peng, Gu Xiangming was instantly sent flying like a cannonball. His entire body was embedded into a wall. His retreating momentum was finally exhausted, but at least 10 bones in his body were broken. He could not move a finger at all. Gu Xiangming was both shocked and angry. Ling Han's strength was indeed heaven-defying. They were both at the blood transformation realm, but why was the difference so great? Most importantly, Ling Han actually dared to attack. He was the captain of the Imperial Guards. What did this status mean? Even people like Senior Tutor Hong did not dare to do anything to him, or else it would be disrespectful to the royal family. But Ling Han was merciless, and he attacked without the slightest bit of hesitation. Aya, this big idiot. Doesn't he know that Dad needs to cultivate in the morning? Eldest baby appeared. She leaned against the wall with a smile, and did not have the slightest intention of helping or pulling him out. Serves you right. Third baby said proudly. Come, let's draw. Second baby waved his little hand. Other than third baby, the other milk babies rushed forward one after another. They dipped their brushes in ink and started drawing on Gu Xiangming's face. Gu Xiangming was both embarrassed and angry. His face was being used as a canvas. How could he endure such humiliation? But he did not have any strength now. How could he stop them? Soon, his face was covered with all kinds of things. Gu Xiangming was about to go crazy. This time, he was clearly here to escort Ling Han. Why did he end up like this before he could show off his might? If he had known this would happen, he would not have asked for permission to come. Ling Han did not care. He focused on cultivating. This half an hour of cultivation every day was very important. Even the treasure fruit of heaven and earth lacked something special. Only the power of heaven and earth had it. This was the foundation of cultivation. Therefore, it was fine to use the treasure fruit to increase one's cultivation, but one could not neglect the most basic cultivation. This was precisely the foundation. Half an hour later, Ling Han called it a day. He was under a lot of pressure now. The demons were threatening him, and it was very likely that he would have to flee. Naturally, he needed powerful strength. Gu Xiangming, you're really despicable. Chapter 3393. Ling Han walked up to Gu Xiangming and said lightly. Elder baby had already gone to support Snow Summoner, so suppressing 2 blood transformation realm Imperial Guards was naturally a piece of cake. Ling Han, how dare you beat up the Imperial Guards? You're courting death. Gu Xiangming said through gritted teeth. Ling Han chuckled and pulled Gu Xiangming out from the wall. Ah! Gu Xiangming screamed. He had broken many bones. It was fine if he didn't move, but once he did, the broken bones pierced into his flesh. The pain made him break out in a cold sweat, and he screamed uncontrollably. You're a big man. You can't take this little injury? Ling Han smiled and casually threw him to the ground. He looked down at him condescendingly. You came here so early in the morning. Are you attending a funeral? Your mouth is too vicious. Gu Xiangming couldn't imagine that a martial art genius who had 2 grandmaster titles and was known as the second in Hongtian steps could speak so viciously. Ling Han, how dare you beat up the Imperial Guards, he shouted. Stop, stop, stop. You've already said it once. Don't you find it annoying? Ling Han interrupted him. So what if they're the Imperial Guards? Can't I beat them? Gu Xiangming was dumbfounded. Are you kidding me? Do you know what the Imperial Guards represent? The Emperor's close officials. What's the difference between beating up the Imperial Guards and humiliating the Emperor? This was clearly courting death, but Ling Han looked like he didn't care at all. It was as if he had accidentally stepped on an ant and didn't need to take it to heart. He was going crazy. This was completely different from what he had imagined. In his opinion, given the pressure Ling Han was under, he must be close to a mental breakdown. As long as he saw Gu Xiangming coming over, he would definitely cry. How could this be? How could this be? Don't pretend to be dead and don't talk nonsense. Why are you disturbing my cultivation? Ling Han asked. I'm disturbing your cultivation. Gu Xiangming was really about to cry. He had been ordered to escort Ling Han. He didn't care if he was cultivating or not. However, he had encountered this fierce man who didn't play by the rules. He was depressed. "I am under the orders of the various lords to escort you," he said through gritted teeth. Before he could finish his sentence, he was slapped. However, this time, it was not Ling Han who slapped him. It was Third Baby. "Escorting my father? Do you want to die?" Third Baby said coldly. "Yeah." Fourth Baby put his hands on his hips. "That's right." Fifth Baby was not to be outdone. Gu Xiangming felt that he had no face to see others in the future. His face was messed up by the milk babies, but he was even slapped by a little girl. It was so shameful. Ling Han laughed and said, "Are you finally going to make a decision?" He thought about it and said, "All right, let's go take a look. Lead the way." Ling Han picked up Gu Xiangming. He strode forward and saw that near the door, there were two imperial guards who had been planted upside down in the ground. Their heads were stuck in the soil, up to their necks. Beside them was the smiling eldest child, who looked like he was admiring a masterpiece. "Don't suffocate them to death," Ling Han reminded him. "It's okay. They'll be pulled out regularly to breathe," said the eldest child. "Okay." Ling Han nodded. Gu Xiangming was stunned. "You just said, okay, and didn't even try to persuade them?" Lunatics, everyone here was a lunatic. He was extremely regretful. He had suffered a great loss this time. How could he have expected that Ling Han and his milk babies would be so lawless? Ling Han asked Sixth Baby to follow him. If his plan was revealed, he would forcefully break out of the encirclement and enter the spirit-nourishing gourd so that Sixth Baby could take him away. Before he took this step, he also wanted to try his best to persuade them. Ling Han carried Gu Xiangming and walked towards the palace. He used his body movement technique. At twice the speed of sound, how long would it take to reach the palace? When he arrived, he slowed down. The forbidden area of the palace. Who dares to trespass? Immediately, an imperial guard stepped forward and asked. Ling Han smiled and said, "I'm Ling Han. I'm here on orders. Here, this is your Captain Gu." Captain Gu? After seeing Gu Xiangming clearly, the Imperial Guard couldn't help but be shocked. "Oh my God, what's going on? Why is our Captain Gu so badly injured?" Gu Xiangming was just about to expose Ling Han's evil deeds when he heard Ling Han speak first. "Your Captain Gu encountered the Demon Clan on the way and was seriously injured." "Demon Clan? You were the one who beat him up." Gu Xiangming shouted in his heart. But when he saw Ling Han's smiling face, he couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. He had an indescribable fear that Ling Han might really kill him. Therefore, he didn't dare to say a word. He could only wait until he met the Grand Elder to talk about this grievance. Therefore, when the Imperial Guard looked over with an inquiring gaze, he nodded and agreed with Ling Han's words. The Imperial Guard let them go. Ling Han headed for the conference hall. On the way, he would naturally encounter other Imperial Guards, but they were all dismissed by him with the same excuse, which also made Gu Xiangming nod so much that even he himself almost believed that Ling Han was actually wounded by the demon race. However, he finally arrived at the conference hall. Ling Han strode in and entered. The hall was very lively today, and many people were seated. The Grand Elder, Yang Bai, sat in the seat of honor, while Senior Grand Tutor Hong and the four marshals sat below. One could guess their identities just by looking at their full armor and their imposing manner. There was also the 3rd Imperial Prince, the 6th Imperial Prince, and the 7th Imperial Prince, whom Ling Han recognized. In addition, there was a large number of Imperial Princes that Ling Han did not recognize. Because they were all wearing the same attire, it was easy to guess their identities. Before Chen Fengyan went into seclusion, he had entrusted the affairs of the country to Yang Bai. Therefore, even though several important princes had arrived, Yang Bai still sat in the seat of honor. "Greetings, my lords." Ling Han threw Gu Xiangming to the ground and cupped his fists in greeting. But Gu Xiangming fell hard on the ground. He already had a dozen or so heads broken, and now he was even more injured, causing him to cry out loudly. Senior Grand Tutor Hong flew into a rage. He immediately stood up and shouted, "Ling Han, how dare you? You even dared to injure the Imperial Guards. Don't think that you can disregard His Majesty just because you've made some small achievements. You really are audacious. Chen Jingye said coldly. Ignorant fool, you're courting death. Chen Xingjie snorted as well. These princes had all suffered at Ling Han's hands before. Now that they finally had the chance, they naturally began to mock and ridicule him. Ling Han smiled slightly and said, I encountered the demon clan on the way here. In order to protect me, Captain Gu was unfortunately severely injured. I am very grateful. Damn, you're addicted. Gu Xiangming hurriedly endured the pain and said, It's not like that. This is clearly the case. He screamed in agony as he was kicked out of the main hall by Ling Han. Ling Han. Senior Grand Tutor Hong's beard and hair moved. This brat was too arrogant. Of course he dared to commit violence in front of him. Ling Han spread his hands and said, My lords, didn't you come to me to discuss the demon clan? In the face of the demon clan's threat, do you still need to care about such a small matter? Lord Hong, don't be so careless. Hearing this, Gu Xiangming fainted from anger. Chapter 3394. You've already fucking started a fight in the meeting hall, and you say it so casually. Senior Tutor Hong was just about to speak when he saw the seventh prince stretch out his hand. Indeed, the threat of the demon race is imminent. Let's talk business first. Just as he was about to speak, the seventh imperial prince extended his hand and said, Indeed, the threat of the demonic beasts is imminent. Let's talk business first. In his eyes, Gu Xiangming was no different from an ant. So what if Ling Han had kicked and beaten him? Let's talk business first. In his eyes, people like Gu Xiangming were naturally no different from ants. So what if Ling Han kicked and beat him? With the invasion of the demonic beasts, he was not worth mentioning. In his eyes, Gu Xiangming was no different from an ant. So what if Ling Han had kicked and beaten him? In the face of the demon race's invasion, he was not worth mentioning. Seeing the four commanders and the seventh prince like this, Senior Tutor Hong felt like vomiting blood. How could this be? Ling Han, you've seen the threat of the demon race, the third prince said. He, too, was not in the mood to care about a puny Imperial Guard getting beaten up. What do you think we should do? Ling Han smiled. Of course, there's only one word. Fight. Fight. Senior Tutor Hong laughed coldly. Do you know how powerful the demon race is? Do you know how many casualties there will be if a war breaks out? Do you know how many innocent people will be sacrificed if our country is conquered? Ling Han looked disdainfully at Grand Tutor Hong and said, Then according to Lord Hong's meaning, if I'm stronger than you and I want to beat your son, you'll obediently hand over your son for me to beat. Why are you talking about me out of the blue? Senior Tutor Hong was stunned. It had to be said that what he wanted to express was the same as what Ling Han had asked him. Should one accept their fate just because they were weak? Come Lord Hong, let's spar. After I beat you down, you must remember that when I tell you to go east, you cannot go west. Ling Han hooked his finger at Senior Tutor Hong. Senior Tutor Hong was so angry that his chest heaved. He waved his sleeves and sat down. I don't want to lower myself to your level. I don't dare. Ling Han smiled. I'm a blood transformation realm cultivator, and I'm not afraid of a fight. Lord Hong, you're too cowardly. No wonder you said those words. I know you're a coward, all right? You. Senior Tutor Hong stood up again. What was this? His eyes were spitting fire. Do you want to die? Although Ling Han was extremely monstrous, he was still a five-vein existence. He was not someone that Ling Han could contend with. All right. Yang Bai came out to smooth things over. We're all ministers of the palace, and we're facing a formidable enemy. Let's not cause internal strife. Lord Yang is indeed wise, Ling Han immediately said. Fuck, are you saying that I'm being unreasonable? Senior Grand Tutor Hong was going crazy again. This young man always had a way to provoke his anger. Ling Han, the demon race only wants you. But you're afraid of death. Are you willing to let the Empire's soldiers bleed and sacrifice their lives for your personal gain? Chen Jingye couldn't help interjecting. Actually, he did not have much of a say in this kind of situation, But how could he be willing to see Ling Han speak with assurance and composure and lead the way? Ling Han laughed heartily. Of course, humans are afraid of death. That's why we cultivate and make ourselves stronger so that we can control our own destiny. But in the face of some things, we have to do it even if we're afraid of death. 89th Highness, if the demon race succeeds this time, they will definitely think that our race is easy to bully. Next time they want you, I wonder if you'll be willing to step forward? Qin Jingye had just opened his mouth but was immediately interrupted by Ling Han. Even if you have this kind of awareness, what if the demon race wants someone else? Ling Han continued. Then we should let the demon race have whatever they want. Some things cannot be compromised from the start. Things like bottom lines and principles cannot be shaken once they've been decided. Also, why was our army established in the first place? Is it so that they won't be sacrificed? Then countless soldiers who died on the battlefield will have to go to the underworld with grievances. A warrior's duty is to protect their citizens. Stain the battlefield with blood, and die without regrets. Clap, clap, clap. General Vajra suddenly applauded. Well said, well said. When I lead the army, I look down on cowards the most. If they're afraid of fighting, bloodshed, and death, what kind of soldiers are they? The Xianyuan army is not afraid of a battle, General Xianyuan said lightly. The Eclipse Moon army is not afraid of a battle, General Eclipse Moon said calmly. The Heaven Traversing army is not afraid of a battle either. General Eclipse Moon was full of arrogance. The four marshals had all expressed that they were not afraid of a battle. Senior Tutor Hong was anxious. He had been on the run for so many days, and Ling Han had turned the tables with just a few words. Ahem. The third prince cleared his throat. Let me talk about the information I've gathered. It's about the demon army. When everyone heard this, they were all stunned. The demon race has a total of 3 armies. They are the Mighty Tiger Army, the Blood Shark Army, and the Red Eagle Army. The third prince began to speak and analyzed. The commander of the Mighty Tiger Army is the biological father of Hu Sihai, who came to the imperial capital previously. His name is Hu Zhanping. According to the information I received, Hu Zhanping's cultivation is in the mystic-seeking realm. The Mighty Tiger Army is made up of 6 camps: tiger, wolf, lion, leopard, elephant, and goat. Each camp has 10,000 people. The leader of the camp is called the Deputy General, and his cultivation is in the enlightening realm. As for the soldiers of the camp, most of them are in the extreme bone realm. The captains are in the inscription realm, and the newly added soldiers are in the blood transformation realm. After listening to his introduction of the Mighty Tiger Army, the entire meeting hall became silent. The 4th Grandmaster was previously full of confidence and was not afraid of a battle. But now he had suffered a serious blow. With their cultivation, if they went to the demon race, they would not be able to become deputy generals, let alone generals. They would only be able to be squad leaders. And this was just one Mighty Tiger Army. How to fight? Looking for death? The Blood Shark Army and the Red Eagle Army strength is similar to the Mighty Tiger Army. It's just that the Blood Shark Army is made up of aquatic demons, while the Red Eagle Army is made up of flying demons, the third prince continued. The entire place was silent. It would have been better if the demon race's strength had not been mentioned. Once he said it, it made people tremble. Just the mystic-seeking realm alone had 3 people. Sea, land, and air were all crushed. How could they fight? The most terrifying was the Air Force. They could throw attacks from the sky, and the people on the ground could not hit them at all. They could only defend passively. There was no chance of winning. Airships. The fact that Hidden Tiger City had been flattened by the beast tide was already a clear indication of the problem. Airships without much flexibility would probably crash if they encountered bird-type demons. It could be said that as long as the demon race launched an attack, the Empire's army would not be able to withstand a single blow. If the difference in strength was not large, they could still fight. But how could they fight in this situation? It was completely suicidal. No wonder the demon race dared to send an envoy to make Xianbei country submit. The difference in overall strength between the two sides was terrifying. We can't fight. The fourth prince shook his head. Then the fifth prince, the sixth prince, the seventh prince, and the others all shook their heads slowly. As long as one was not an idiot, they would know that starting a war would mean the destruction of the country. Chapter 3396. The seventh prince pondered and said, "If father can't come out in time, we will definitely lose this war. However, we cannot risk our lives to fight. Otherwise, the human race will really perish. Therefore, we need to preserve our strength." Ling Han was surprised. What did he mean by that? "When the war starts, you will leave with me. I have already made some arrangements and can rise in this chaotic world." The seventh prince continued, "You mean to become a deserter?" Ling Han widened his eyes and looked at the seventh prince without saying a word. The seventh prince smiled. "Those who achieve great things don't bother with trifles. I don't want to see the people being plunged into misery and suffering, but if it is unavoidable, I cannot continue to fight even though I know I will die." Ling Han instantly understood. This seventh prince was ambitious and capable. However, he was not a benevolent emperor, but a ruthless one. A general's success was built on the bones of tens of thousands. He only cared about his own imperial ambitions. As for how many sacrifices he would have to make on this road, he didn't care at all. To work or cooperate with such a person, one had to be very careful. Who knew if one would suddenly be betrayed? In the seventh prince's eyes, people were arranged according to their value. If one had no value, one would be sacrificed or sacrificed for a greater value. At this moment, Ling Han decided to keep his distance from the seventh prince. Otherwise, he might really be tricked one day. "I believe the situation won't deteriorate to such a degree," he said. "Optimism is good, but blindly optimism can kill oneself." The seventh prince patted Ling Han's shoulder. "Think about it. I still look forward to cooperating with you and working together for a great cause." Ling Han smiled. He didn't want to fall out with the seventh prince. It was just that it was impossible for him to cooperate with the seventh prince on a deeper level. He now felt that the seventh prince was more and more terrifying. If he got too close to him, he might be dragged down with him. Those who walked different paths could not work together. "I will go back first. Think about it." The seventh prince turned and left. He had asked Ling Han to think twice. This meant that he still thought highly of Ling Han. Unfortunately, Ling Han had seen through his ruthless nature. Ling Han smiled and watched the seventh prince leave. Right now, he was under house arrest. Unrelated people couldn't come and see him. Even the optical computer couldn't connect to the internet. It could be said that he had completely lost contact with the outside world. Only important people like the seventh prince could enter this place. "If I really want to break out, can you stop me?" Ling Han shook his head. Days passed and the atmosphere in the capital grew tenser by the day. The deadline given by the demon race was getting closer and closer, but those important figures had yet to make a final decision, and the Saint Emperor was still in seclusion. If the demon race army pressed down on their borders, how were they going to resist? The more cowardly people were already preparing to move their families, but the world was so big, and they didn't know where to move to. Perhaps if they ran recklessly, they would bump into the demon clan. Everyone was in a state of panic. If the Heavenly Emperor didn't come out, everyone felt that they had no backbone and no confidence. Ling Han, on the other hand, was calm and composed. Every day, he would cultivate and study array formations and alchemy. His days were extremely fulfilling. Just like that, 8 days passed. The big shots held another meeting, but this time, Ling Han was not called over. It was said that only a few of the princes who were ranked highly insisted on going to war, while the military and the head of parliament were strongly against it. On the morning of the second day, they finally made a decision. Ling Han didn't know how the 4 marshals and the chief of staff were convinced. Perhaps the princes had used force. At least a few of them had reached the enlightening realm, so it wasn't difficult to convince the 4 marshals and the chief of staff. Since they had decided to go to war, they had to mobilize all of their forces to face the invasion of the demon race. Ling Han was also informed that he would be joining the army and leading the way. Ling Han didn't care about this. Although he didn't think he had done anything wrong, he was still the fuse of this war. It wasn't too much to be on the front lines. On the contrary, he was somewhat excited. He wanted to experience the power of the demon race. The profligates in the capital were also mobilized. Most of them were students of the Imperial Capital College, and some had already graduated. The demon race was too powerful. They needed the battle strength of the ultimate bone realm to fight against it, and they were the core strength. Most of them were pessimistic, but they also held onto a glimmer of hope. That was that their Saint Emperor would come out of seclusion and turn the situation around by himself. Otherwise, they would really be sending themselves to their deaths. So what if they could hold off the demon race for 10 days or a month? In the end, the sky would still fall. These noble soldiers gathered in the plaza. The 4 marshals would mobilize them and then head to the front lines. When Ling Han arrived, he immediately received many hateful glares. To most people, it was completely Ling Han's fault that they were standing here. Once they entered the battlefield, it was very likely that more than half of them wouldn't come back. Who wanted to die? Especially these profligates, who had lived a leisurely life in the capital. To them, war was something extremely distant. But now that they had to face it all at once, they didn't know what to do. Ling Han didn't say anything. Even if he told these people, even without his reason, the demon race would still launch an invasion. It was just that they might be a few days late. At 10 in the morning, everyone had arrived. Those who were late would be sentenced to death. This was a war and there were no exceptions. No one could act like a big shot. The 4 marshals began to ramble, saying some words that made everyone's blood boil. On the battlefield, morale was very important. If morale was low, they might only be able to use 30% of their battle strength. But if morale was high, they might be able to perform better than normal. All right, let's go. After the 4 marshals had finished speaking, Yang Bai stood up and waved his hand. Just as everyone was about to set off, they suddenly saw a black shadow in the sky. What's that? Someone with sharp eyes asked. Warship. Why is our warship in that position? Everyone was curious. This time, all the warships would be mobilized for the war. It was too unexpected for them to appear in that position. It's the demon race's warship. When the black shadow got closer, everyone could clearly see it and couldn't help but exclaim. The demon race had come. Why would they choose this time? If they didn't hand over Ling Han today, then war would follow. Could it be that the demon race was so confident that the human race would definitely bow their heads, so they had sent a warship to bring Ling Han back? How arrogant. The warship was huge, but it wasn't slow. It quickly arrived above the plaza, casting a huge shadow. This warship was about 600 meters long and 800 meters wide. It could be said to be a colossus. Such a large body couldn't even land on the plaza and could only hover. Swish. A giant eagle flew out from the warship and swiftly descended. Chapter 3397. A Beautiful Romance. In the sky, a giant eagle spread its wings. They were dozens of meters long and shockingly large. It fluttered its wings and descended rapidly, stopping about 10 meters above the square. At this moment, everyone could clearly see that there were more than a dozen people standing on the giant eagle's back. However, the eagle's body was too large, so standing on it was a small matter. They were all demons, both men and women. The demon race was really arrogant. Xianbei Nation was already mobilizing for battle, but they had come so openly. Were they trying to show off? Good, let's make sure they won't be able to return. Everyone drew their weapons, their fighting spirit roused. Many of these spoiled brats bullied the weak and feared the strong. They would be afraid to fight on the battlefield, but now there were only a dozen opponents. What was there to be afraid of? There was only one word to say, fight. Who's in charge here? Someone from the demon race asked. It was a tall, slender elder. Apart from his somewhat long and pointed ears, there was almost no difference between him and a human. But as soon as he spoke, at least half of them sat down, no longer having the will to fight. It was too frightening. This aura was like a blood fiend Azura returning from a hellish battlefield. The remaining half were still standing, but that was all they could do. They couldn't even take a step forward. Shio. The four marshals, Yang Bai, and senior tutor Hong leapt over at the same time, their faces flashing with fear. This elder was too powerful, far surpassing the engravement realm. I am the general of the Yu dynasty's Crimson Eagle army, Xue Qiluo. The elder spoke. His voice was like metal, full of destructive power. Crimson Eagle Army General. The four marshals' expressions changed. They had already learned from the third prince that the general of the Crimson Eagle Army was a secret-seeking expert. In other words, this Xue Qiluo was 2 whole realms higher than them. 2 big realms, not a small one. Not to mention them, even that heaven-suppressing monster, Hong Tianbu, could only lower his head in front of Xue Qiluo. Xue Qiluo swept his gaze over everyone, his face revealing a look of disdain. Truly weak. So it's General Xue, one of the 3 great generals of the demon race. With a long laugh, the princes who were ranked highly also appeared. Even if they were facing a powerhouse from the secret realm, they were not afraid at all. That's more like it. Xue Qiluo swept his gaze across the princes, no longer looking down on them. Finally, the cultivation of the enlightening realm wasn't so weak that he couldn't even be bothered to look at them. The 7th prince and the others, including Xue Shiluo, turned their heads to look behind them. Father, it seems like an incredible fellow has arrived. 6th baby whispered into Ling Han's ear. She had been sitting on Ling Han's shoulder, while the other milk babies were all in the spirit-nourishing gourd. Ling Han couldn't see it, but he had a vague feeling that some terrifying existence was rapidly approaching. It was a pity that he couldn't summon second baby now. With her pupil sorcery, she would definitely be able to see it clearly. However, after a short while, a green light appeared on the horizon. Very quickly, this light appeared on the square, and a middle-aged man appeared. This is actually a prince, one can tell just by looking at his clothing. His aura was vigorous, and his skin was actually emitting a kind of green color. It was as if he had contracted some kind of illness or cultivated some kind of strange technique. Big brother, the 3rd prince called out one after another. This was Qin Fengyan's first son, Qin Xingyu. Ling Han couldn't help but look at Qin Xingyu. Since 6th baby said that this person was incredible, there must be something amazing about him. Oh, I understand. 6th baby nodded even though no one could see it. Ling Han lowered his voice and asked, "What did you see?" "Father, this fellow has the Azure Dipper Star constitution," 6th baby said. "Innate divine body?" Ling Han asked. He had already learned from the Gourd brothers that there were innate divine bodies in this world. They were born with incomparable talent in martial art, as well as all kinds of magical powers. For them, fighting against their own realms was as simple and natural as eating and drinking. 6th baby nodded and said seriously, "Yes, although it's not considered very terrifying among the innate divine bodies, it's still very powerful to be called an innate divine body." Azure Dipper Star Constitution? While Ling Han and 6th baby were talking, Qin Xingyu also nodded at his younger brothers. He then looked at Xue Qiluo and said, "I didn't expect the demon race's supreme commander to visit personally. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you." Xue Qiluo's eyes narrowed and he said, "Is this the first prince?" "That's right, I am." Qin Xingyu nodded majestically. From this point he was very similar to Qin Fengyan. It was unknown whether it was because he was his first son, or if he was deliberately imitating him. Xue Qiluo completely withdrew his contempt and said, "As expected of the Saint Emperor's bloodline. He's actually at the secret-seeking realm." What? The first prince had already entered the secret-seeking realm? Everyone was shocked. Even the 3rd prince's expression changed. Although cultivation wasn't everything, Qin Xingyu was the only prince who had entered the secret-seeking realm. This naturally gave him a lot of points. The first prince smiled faintly and said, "General Xue, what brings you here?" Xue Qiluo looked at the first prince and took a deep breath. He said, "I have come here on behalf of His Majesty." He paused as if he found it difficult to speak. After a while, he said, "Hand over the letter of surrender." Everyone choked, and their faces were filled with astonishment. "Are you kidding me? Letter of surrender?" Ha! The demon race had sent envoys to demand Xianbei country's surrender twice. Afterwards, they had brazenly threatened that if Xianbei country didn't hand over Ling Han, they would attack. So arrogant, why did they suddenly hand over a letter of surrender? Moreover, although the demon race's strength wasn't unbridled, as long as one's status was high enough, they would know how terrifying the demon race was. Not to mention an all-out attack, any one of the three armies would be enough to wipe out Xianbei country. The demon race had actually sent a general to hand over a letter of surrender even though they had the upper hand in terms of strength? How could they believe it? Not even in a daydream would they be so unreliable. Oh, is that true? Although the first prince was also shocked, he quickly regained his composure. Xue Qiluo revealed a look of humiliation. He had come on behalf of the Yu dynasty to hand over a letter of surrender. This wasn't something to be proud of, so he wasn't in the mood to joke around. He said in a low voice, "How could I joke about such a thing?" Then it was true. Even if they were joking, they wouldn't do it in such a manner. Offering a letter of surrender in front of so many people. But the problem was that they had analyzed it before, and the demons had no reason to lower their heads at all. This left everyone scratching their heads in confusion. The first prince had the demeanor of his father, calm and collected. He immediately smiled and said, "Oh, since the Yu dynasty is willing to surrender, then Lord Yang, please come and preside over this." Although he was the first prince, Yang Bai was the one in charge. He couldn't overstep his boundaries. Chapter 3398. A Beautiful Romance. Yang Bai was baffled. The development of the situation had taken too many twists and turns. He had been caught off guard. Why had the demon race surrendered? He was puzzled. Could it be that the Black North nation didn't even dare to accept a surrender? Yang Bai walked out and faced Crimson Luo. Crimson Luo stretched out his hand and an imperial edict appeared out of thin air. He held it with both hands and handed it over to Yang Bai. Yang Bai reached out and took the imperial edict, then unfolded it. The four commanders and the princes couldn't help but move closer. Their eyes swept over the edict, and all of them revealed expressions of surprise and joy. This really was a surrender. The demon emperor had praised Qin Fengyan to the highest degree, and was willing to lead his nation to surrender and become Qin Fengyan's subordinate. "Long live your majesty," Yang Bai was the first to say. His voice was very loud and trembling. It was clear from the letter that the demon race had only surrendered because of Qin Fengyan. A single person subduing an entire nation was simply a myth. Long live the sacred emperor. The four commanders also raised their weapons and roared, "Long live the sacred emperor." Although the surrounding people hadn't seen the letter with their own eyes, the council head and the four commanders had already reacted in such a manner. Who would have thought that an impending war would end in such a dramatic manner? In order to express our emperor's respect and forge a lasting friendship between our two races, our emperor has also sent his most beloved daughter, Princess Baishao. He hopes that she can marry one of the princes and serve as a bridge between our two dynasties, Crimson Luo said. He took a step back and bowed, making way for a woman behind him. This woman had been hidden behind Crimson Luo this entire time, and her face had been covered by a white veil. Naturally, she hadn't attracted anyone's attention. But now, she was exposed to thousands of pairs of eyes. A peerless beauty. For a moment, the same thought rose in everyone's mind. Although this woman's appearance wasn't obvious, just her figure alone was enough to make one's heart flutter. She was definitely a beauty that could bring calamity to a nation. The demon princess had come for a marriage proposal. Everyone couldn't help but look at the princes. Just the thought of such a peerless beauty being betrothed to one of them was enough to make anyone jealous. Princess Baishao took off her veil, and a beautiful face appeared. Her facial features were as exquisite as the most exquisite work of art in the world, like a dream or fantasy. Could such a stunning beauty really exist in this world? She bowed towards the princes and the four marshals, saying, "Baishao pays her respects to the princes and lords." This woman was truly a peerless beauty that could cause the downfall of a city. Not only did the four great marshals and Yang Bai reveal a stupefied expression, but even the princes who were ranked at the top of the rankings were also tempted. Everyone looked at the princes with even more envy, jealousy, and hatred. For such a stunning beauty, they were willing to commit murder and arson. Ling Han gritted his teeth. Could it be that this demon emperor wanted to use a honey trap and then drive a wedge between them, using Princess Bai Xiao to cause internal strife in Xianbei country and win without a fight? Dad, I'll definitely be prettier than her when I grow up, sixth baby said with a pout. Ling Han chuckled. He had something to say but did not say it out loud. Old Six, you are invisible. So what if you are beautiful? No one can see you. Sigh, without the big black dog by his side, there was no one to help him ridicule. He had to be responsible for all the ridicule, and it was very tiring. This Princess Bai Xiao was indeed very beautiful, but not as beautiful as the Empress and Hunyou. Ling Han quickly retracted his attention and asked Sixth Baby, how powerful is the Azure Dipper star physique? Sixth Baby bit his finger and thought for a while, then said, it can activate a mystical power and shoot out Azure Chi, which has a terrifying destructive power. If even Sixth Baby said so, then this Azure Dipper star physique should be very powerful. However, the Azure Dipper star physique can only be ranked 9th, and can't compare to many acquired mystical powers. Sixth Baby expressed his disdain again. For example, your invisibility technique? Ling Han asked with a smile. That's true. The mystical powers that the 7 of us possess can definitely be ranked in the top 3. Only the Boundless Divine Body, the 10,000 Calamities Divine Body, and some other super divine bodies can surpass us. However, such a divine body may not appear even once in tens of thousands of years, Sixth Baby said proudly. How did you get Third Baby's bad habit? Ling Han couldn't help but be envious. He was born from a divine stone, so why didn't he have any mystical powers? This didn't make sense. Could it be that he had some hidden mystical powers that he hadn't activated? Ling Han couldn't help but start complaining again. Looks like there's nothing left for us to do. Let's go back. Ling Han turned around. Since the demon race had already surrendered, there naturally wouldn't be a war. Without the threat of the demon race, no one dared to put Ling Han under house arrest. The Imperial guards outside his courtyard quickly withdrew. After 2 days, Xianyuan Dingwa came looking for him. Hey, do you know why the demon race surrendered? He asked mysteriously. I don't know. Ling Han shook his head. Why don't you guess? Xianyuan Dingwa was still keeping him in suspense. Forget it if you don't want to say. Ling Han turned his head away. Why aren't you curious at all? Xianyuan Dingwa sighed. You're really not fun at all. However, he couldn't help but immediately come over and say, Is it your Majesty? Ling Han looked at him. 4 days ago, your Majesty personally went to the demon race's palace and fought with the demon emperor. The next day, the demon emperor made the decision to submit and sent Shui Crimson and Princess Bai Xiao, Xianyuan Dingwa said. His face was full of admiration. If only I could cultivate 1% of your Majesty's strength in this lifetime. Ling Han was also surprised. So Chen Fengyan had actually come out of seclusion without a word, and even educated the demon emperor, beating the demon race into submission. That was really impressive. Why didn't Chen Fengyan say anything in advance? Obviously, the demon emperor wanted to see how everyone would perform. Now that the peace faction had been exposed, they would definitely not be put in an important position by Chen Fengyan in the future. Speaking of which, that demon princess is really too beautiful. She's practically a source of calamity. Xianyuan Dingwa changed the topic to Princess Bai Xiao. Unfortunately, the demon race has already made it clear that this princess will only be betrothed to one of the princes. We won't have a share. He sighed as if his parents had died. Bai Xiao's charisma was evident. Ling Han shook his head and smiled. Then you should work hard on your cultivation. In the future, when you become even more powerful than the demon emperor, you can just marry his other daughter. Xianyuan Dingwa had pretended to beat him up. Was it even possible for him to surpass the demon emperor? Bang bang bang. At that moment, someone knocked on the door. Who is it? It's already so late. The little maid ran to open the door, but a moment later, she ran back in shock. Young master, There's someone outside who claims to be the demon race's princess. Xin Yuan Dingwa spat out a mouthful of tea. Chapter 3400. The demon race had treasures. The fourth prince had been very generous and had given Ling Han more than 40 treasure fruits of life. Now that there was a princess, this tradition should be carried forward. However, Princess Bai Xiao was in the secret realm and could not be defeated. She was also responsible for her beauty, so how could she easily make a move? Therefore, it was unrealistic to try to trick Princess Bai Xiao and obtain the treasure fruits like the fourth prince of the demon race. Even if he succeeded, with Princess Bai Xiao's popularity, Ling Han would probably be condemned by everyone. Then what should he do? Ling Han looked at the Calabash brothers and couldn't help but smile. Sixth brother, come, I have a task for you. Ling Han smiled. He gave sixth brother face to face, and the little boy kept nodding and showing a look of understanding. I understand. Sixth brother showed a look of admiration. Father, you are so despicable. Ling Han said with a serious face, despicable is not a compliment, it is wise. Father, you are so wise. The 7 children said at the same time. Ling Han taught sixth brother nothing more than to use sixth brother's invisibility ability to dirty Princess Bai Xiao's clothes, or steal her spatial ritual implement while she was bathing. With a wave of his hand, a treasure fruit appeared. If it was not a spatial ritual implement, what was it? Sixth brother immediately set off while Ling Han waited for good news. In the middle of the night, sixth baby returned safely. Father, I got it. Sixth brother said and handed over a jade pendant. Ling Han used his divine sense to explore and immediately entered an inner space. It was not big, only 3 feet long and wide. It was much smaller than the spirit-nourishing gourd. Other than some treasure fruits, there were also a few pieces of clothing, but there were no cultivation techniques or martial arts techniques. Seeing a few pieces of underwear, Ling Han couldn't help but grimace. It was a little hard to look at. He tried to put the spatial ritual implement into the spirit-nourishing gourd but found it impossible. After thinking about it, Ling Han took out the item from the spatial device and buried the jade pendant in the grove. He did not have to worry if Princess Bai Xiao came here to search for it. After this incident, this spatial artifact could be used. Then he took out a treasure fruit and started munching on it. He needed to reach the extreme bone realm as soon as possible. The Sky Sea Star seemed to be on the verge of another great explosion, and this time, it might completely liberate the planet and restore it to its former glory. So, he had to seize this opportunity to rise, and the stronger he was, the greater the fortune he would be able to obtain. He cultivated with all his might. To Ling Han's surprise, although Princess Bai Xiao had been stolen, there was no great fanfare of a search. It was as if nothing had happened at all. This beauty was really shrewd. The imperial capital returned to its former peaceful days. Princess Bai Xiao began to show her unparalleled charm. Now, not only were all the princes infatuated, but even the marshals were like old trees that had sprouted. There seemed to be only one name left in the entire imperial capital, and that was Princess Bai Xiao, who had overshadowed Ling Han and Hong Tianbu. Moreover, the demon race would also send a delegation, composed entirely of the young geniuses of the Yu dynasty. This set off another storm in the imperial capital. The human race had Hong Tianbu and Ling Han, so what kind of monstrous geniuses did the demon race have? Ling Han ignored them and cultivated with all his might. With the support of the treasure fruit, Ling Han's progress was very rapid. Originally, it would have taken him 3 months to reach the peak of the 7th transformation, but now, 3 days was enough. Sure enough, after 3 days, Ling Han had reached the peak of the 7th transformation. Ling Han was not in a hurry to break through. Even heavenly treasures and treasured fruits could not truly replace bitter cultivation. The power obtained this way was not stable enough. Moreover, this was the peak of the 7th transformation. The next step was to break through a major realm. Even if he had cultivated bitterly, he still had to go back and polish it properly. With second baby watching over Ling Han believed that he could polish the blood transformation realm to perfection. At this moment, The demon race's delegation finally arrived. This was a team of 100 people. There were both men and women, and they were all very young. Even though the demon race had already pledged allegiance, these people were still arrogant. In fact, they indeed had something to be proud of. The number one expert of the delegation was called Huer. It was said that he was already a mystery-seeking expert, but because the environment did not allow him to enter a higher realm, he was only a mere 27 years old. With such talent, even Hong Tianbu would probably be inferior to him. He had no choice but to be convinced. Under Huer, there were 3 Enlightenment Realm experts, namely Hu Taifeng, Xiong Bao, and Ing Pokong. Their ages were all below 30. Below them were existences at the Engravement Realm, and there were many of them. In comparison, the only human who had advanced to the Engravement Realm below 30 years old was Hong Tianbu. This was a little too tragic to look at. It was said that the demon race advanced rapidly in the early stages of martial art, and it was indeed not an exaggeration. When Hu Taifeng, Xiong Bao, and Ing Pokong arrived, they immediately issued a challenge to Hong Tianbu, saying that they could suppress their cultivation and exchange pointers with him. However, Hong Tianbu was not in the imperial capital, so he naturally could not respond. Hong Tianbu was not here, but Ling Han was. Hence, the spearhead was immediately aimed at Ling Han. The demon race spread the word that regardless of whether it was Huer, Xiong Bao, or the others, they could suppress their cultivation and exchange pointers with Ling Han. They only asked if Ling Han dared to accept. Ling Han did not pay attention to them. He had already used facts to prove that he was invincible in the same realm. Right now, he was not in the mood to pay attention to the demon race. He wanted to improve his body arts and then attack the extreme bone realm. He was a busy person, so how could he have the time to pay attention to such trivial matters? The demon race was indeed tyrannical. If not for Chen Fengyan, the human race would really be the meat of the demon race. The 100 or so demon race geniuses had been challenging all over the place recently, and there was no sign of them being defeated in the same realm. Even if their opponent was a realm lower, some demon race could still not be defeated and even win. This was the advantage of the demon race. Before they stepped onto the immortal path, the demon race would always hold this advantage and suppress the human race in terms of life. After obtaining many victories, the demonic beast race once again targeted Ling Han and Hong Tianbu, because they were the only 2 humans who had caused the demonic beast race to suffer losses. There was no need to mention Chen Fengyan, who was now the fully deserving number 1 elite of Heavenly Sea Planet. Even the demonic emperor had to lower his head to him. The demon race constantly spread the word, wanting Hong Tianbu and Ling Han to come out and fight. Some demon race members even used insulting words, saying that Hong Tianbu and Ling Han were fishing for fame. This made the people of the imperial capital very angry. You are obviously the surrendered subjects, so how can you be so arrogant? But the only one who could suppress the demon race was the Sage Emperor, and now that the Sage Emperor had not said a word, it was as if he had acquiesced to this state of affairs, leaving the people helpless. They could only hope that Ling Han or Hong Tianbu would step out. At this time, Ling Han received an invitation from the demon race princess, saying that there would be a banquet in 3 days, and she hoped that Ling Han could attend. "Ha, unsheathing your sword?" Just in time. Ling Han revealed a smile. He had just planned to attack the extreme bone realm, so in 3 days he should be on the 3rd step of martial art. Good, let him put a damper on the demon race's spirit. End of chapter. Chapter 3401. Ling Han accepted the invitation and began to break through to the ultimate bone realm. The illuminating pulse realm opened up all the meridians in the body. This was the channel through which secret power could be stored and circulated. It was the foundation of martial art. Without this step, one could forget about martial art. Next was the blood transformation realm. This was where the level of life truly increased. After the blood transformation realm was the ultimate bone realm. In essence, this was still an increase in the level of life. The specific manifestation was the evolution of the bones in the body. Every time the bones were broken, the bone would be expelled and finally turned into gold. This gave the martial artist an extremely strong defense. For example, Ling Han's battle prowess in the blood transformation realm was extremely shocking. However, if he landed an attack on the bones of an ultimate bone realm expert, the opponent could completely rely on the toughness of the bones to take the attack. Thus, unless one had overwhelming power, one had to find the cracks in the bones to fight against an ultimate bone realm expert. In this way, the ultimate bone realm undoubtedly reduced the martial artist's vital points. With the protection of tough bones, the relatively weak body would have the protection of tough bones. Ling Han consumed a treasure fruit of life and began to break through. Boom, waves instantly appeared in his body, and his level of life began to increase. In theory, as long as one's cultivation level increased, their level of life would also increase. However, when one broke through to the next realm, it was undoubtedly a leap, especially for a major realm. Ling Han immediately felt his body become empty. Even if he consumed a treasure fruit of life, it was not enough. The higher one's realm, the higher the grade of the treasure fruit of life needed to break through. Ling Han had just eaten a rainbow fruit. It was not a problem for him to break through to a minor realm, but it was a bit difficult for him to break through to a major realm. Furthermore, a monster like Ling Han needed a shocking amount of life energy. It was no wonder that the four marshals and the other experts were stuck at the engravement realm. Without the corresponding treasure fruit of life, how would they dare to break through? It was purely seeking death. Due to the environment, there were too few great herbs. From this point, it could be seen that the monster race was truly blessed. Firstly, they covered the land, sea, and air, so the range and difficulty of gathering herbs were completely different. Furthermore, the monster race's level of life was already high, so the grade of the treasure fruit of life needed to break through could be appropriately reduced. Thus, the monster race had more experts than the human race, and their overall strength was also a level higher. Fortunately, there was Chen Fengyan, who completely supported the human race with his own strength. If not for Chen Fengyan, what would be the fate of the human race? This thought flashed through Ling Han's mind as he munched on another long rainbow fruit and continued to guide his body's evolution. Boom, 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 a terrifying sound came from within his body, but breaking through a major realm was a matter of course, so there was no strange phenomenon in the world. Fuck, Ling Han realized that one long rainbow fruit was completely useless. He had no choice but to eat the third one. This was like trying to put out a burning cart of firewood with a cup of water. The rainbow fruits went down one after another, turning into surging life energy, yet it was immediately exhausted, practically not having any effect. In next to no time, the remaining rainbow fruits were eaten clean, but Ling Han had only walked a quarter of the path of evolution at most. He took out the treasure fruit of life that he had stolen from Princess Bai Xiao and started gnawing on it without any hesitation. This was at the level of the enlightening realm. With just one bite, Ling Han felt an ocean-like energy surging into his body, filling him up instantly. If the four marshals, Senior Grand Tutor Hong, and the others saw this, they would definitely scold Ling Han for being wasteful. If this treasure fruit was given to them, it would be enough for them to break through to the enlightening realm. Now, Ling Han was actually using it to break through to the ultimate bone realm. What a waste, too much of a waste. However, Ling Han did not care at all. He could get more after eating the treasure fruit, but could he miss the opportunity to improve his strength? On the contrary, as long as he had enough strength, what treasure could he not obtain? Realm barrier open for me. Ling Han continuously tore apart the shackles in his body, all the way until he reached the enlightening realm. Martial artists were all tearing apart the shackles in their bodies, but some people tore apart more, while others tore less. This was the foundation of climbing the immortal path. Some people could be stronger than those of the same level, and some could reach the peak of the great path, all because their foundations were stronger. Every time Ling Han tore apart a shackle, he felt his body relax, but at the same time he would use up a large amount of life essence. After he tore apart a total of 17 shackles, the ferocious evolution finally slowed down. Ling Han took a few more bites of the treasure fruit and continued to advance his cultivation. The shackles were still being torn apart, but the speed was much slower, and it was even about to stop. In breaking through to the next realm, the number of shackles that would be torn apart was completely not fixed. Generally speaking, 1 shackle would be torn apart for a minor realm, and 5 would be torn apart for a major realm. This was the case for most people. Ling Han had already torn apart 27 shackles. In theory, this was already incomparably shocking, but he was not satisfied. From blood transformation to enlightening, there were only a few major realms and minor realms. How many chances would he have to tear apart the shackles? He wanted to pursue the strongest, and that meant that he had to tear apart all the shackles before he stepped onto the immortal path. Therefore, he had to do his best at every step. Ling Han mustered up his remaining strength, trying to make his breakthrough as perfect as possible. He tore apart the 28th shackle. Not enough, again. The 29th shackle was shattered. Still not enough. The 30th shackle was shattered. Could he do it again? Ling Han mustered up his remaining strength and tried to break through the 31st shackle. However, his evolution had already slowed down. It was like a tide that had been completely blocked by a dam. Boom, boom, boom. He broke through 9 times in a row, but to no avail. This was all he could do. Ling Han ate the remaining half of the treasure fruit, and then gathered all the life force in his body to break through this shackle. This was his last attempt. If he did not succeed, there would be no next time. The life force transformed into a huge wave, heavily crashing onto the shackle. Boom, even the dam could not withstand the impact of such a huge wave, and it broke apart with a loud bang. Ling Han instantly felt his whole body relax. Not only his body, but also his mind. He had broken through his limit. Of course, this limit was only for himself. For others, breaking 6 shackles would be considered as breaking through the limit. But for him, this was the true limit. This was really the limit. As the 31st shackle was broken, Ling Han felt like his body had turned into stagnant water, unable to raise any more waves. Extreme Bone Realm. Ling Han smiled. Next was bone refinement, slowly refining the bone dregs. This was a painstaking process. Even with treasured fruits that could increase one's cultivation, it was still impossible for it to be that fast. Although he said so, he took out the treasure fruit for cultivation and ate it. Now that the upper limit of his realm had been broken, he could naturally increase his secret power again. It was only at night that Ling Han finally stopped. In terms of secret power, he had already reached the middle stage of Bone Realm. However, he only had 2 treasure fruits of life for the Enlightenment Realm. He had already eaten all the other treasured fruits. Chapter 3402. Opening the door to a major tier also opened a lot of new horizons for Ling Han. His mental power obtained a great improvement, and this was what Ling Han was most concerned about now. Could he make the Empress and the others come out? Ling Han tried, but his mental power manifested in the inner world and couldn't move the Empress, Hunyo, and the others, but Ling Han had a feeling that it was because their cultivation was too high. Try something else. He tried to grab a rock, and then took it out. The rock instantly shattered and then disappeared. Ling Han was startled. The thing was taken out, but it turned into dust, not even a speck of ash remained. He thought for a moment, and instantly understood. He was once the strongest heavenly venerable, but after coming into the world, he was still extremely weak, and could only walk after lying down for 3 days. In other words, if the strongest heavenly venerable came here, he would be about the same as an ordinary adult man. Then, needless to say, those below heavenly venerable were extremely weak. Ordinary rocks like this couldn't withstand the power of heaven and earth of the outer world at all, directly shattering and turning into nothingness. Similarly, if ordinary people were brought out by Ling Han, they would probably only be able to turn into nothingness. Ling Han randomly found a wolf. It wasn't a demonic beast, and was extremely ordinary. With a thought, he brought this wolf out of the inner world. Without even a whimper, this wolf was shattered into pieces, not even leaving behind a mist of blood or bone fragments. Too weak, completely crushed by the power of heaven and earth. This was like this wolf being struck by a 7-step heavenly venerable. How could it bear it? Ling Han continued to try, experimenting with extremely vicious demonic beasts or villains. He discovered that he could now bring out creatures of the highest shattering void tier or the corresponding materials. Any higher, and his mental power wouldn't be able to move them. But after coming out, the power of heaven and earth pressed down, immediately shattering, leaving not the slightest bit of residue. Ling Han speculated that firstly, his strength still needed to improve, mainly his mental power, so that he could bring out the strongest beings. Secondly, the beings in the inner world also had to be strong enough to resist the pressure from the outside world. And he didn't know what this line was. Celestial King Heavenly Venerable or 7-Step Heavenly Venerable. He could only wait and see. There was no way to test it now. He told everyone to properly cultivate. If an immortal king could come out, that would be fine, but an Empyrean's starting point was too high, and it was destined that only a few people would be able to come out. He still needed to raise his cultivation as soon as possible. Ling Han sighed and did not dwell on this matter any longer. He used his psyche power to drive the flying sword. Xiao, a cold light flashed. It was indescribably fast. 7 times the speed of sound. Ling Han smiled. The higher the speed, the harder it would be to increase it further. No matter how small the resistance was, it would become incomparably large under rapid accumulation. If he wanted to continue increasing the speed, he had to first strengthen his psyche power, and secondly, he had to make the flying sword lighter and sharper to reduce the resistance. Demon Monkey punch-lapping force of 50 coupled with the frequency of his attacks, Ling Han believed that he would be able to battle a 3-vein level expert. He might even be able to kill a 2-vein level expert. Not only do I want to be invincible among my peers, but I also want to be invincible across realms. Ling Han murmured. The next step was to improve his physical skills. At that time, he would be able to fight even a 4-vein level expert. Unfortunately, not only were the treasure fruits gone, but the purple-yellow honey had also been used up. He could only rely on himself to cultivate bit by bit. He would take it slow. Ling Han knew that his period of rapid cultivation improvement was over. Moreover, as his realm got higher and higher, it would be more and more difficult to maintain the rapid growth of his cultivation in the future. Unless the world changed drastically again, and more ancient sites and more treasure fruits appeared. Soon it should be soon. Chen Fengyan and Jin Sanin had both said so. Now, I need a higher level spirit diagram and movement skills. The shuttle steps can no longer keep up with my realm, Ling Han murmured. But who would sell a higher level movement skill? Ling Han shook his head. It seemed that he could only improve the shuttle steps himself. In the inner world, he had mastered countless movement skills. Although the environment was different and he could not use them immediately, it might be possible if he combined them with the shuttle steps. He began to work, but this was not something that could be achieved in a short period of time. 2 days had passed, and he had not made much progress. However, it was already time for the banquet hosted by Princess Bai Xiao. Then he would take it easy and set off. Father, we want to go too. The 7 children all ran over. 3rd child hung on Ling Han's chest, which was her usual position, while 4th child and 5th child each hugged one of his thighs. However, 7th baby had only run halfway when he fell forward and fell to the ground. He fell into a deep sleep. Ling Han smiled and said, "All right, everyone go." He let all 6 children enter the spirit-nurturing gourd. There was no need for 6th child. He could hold him without worrying about being seen. He let the little servant girl and the fat pig look after the house while he went to attend the banquet. Tomorrow he would move out of the academy. He had to graduate from the ultimate bone realm. Peng, peng, peng. Ling Han had just walked to the door when he heard someone knocking on it. He opened the door and saw an old man standing at the door. It was Butler Mu. Butler Mu. Ling Han was surprised. Why would the others suddenly visit? Butler Mu nodded and said, "Are you going to attend Princess Bai Xiao's banquet?" Ling Han did not know what this had to do with Butler Mu, but there was nothing to hide. He nodded and said, "That's right." Butler Mu revealed an awkward expression and said, "Ling Han, I have a presumptuous request." Ling Han frowned slightly and said, "Please speak." "I would like you to bring my young miss as a dance partner," Butler Mu said. "What? Bring Feng Ruoxian to the banquet?" Ling Han was stunned and immediately understood. Feng Ruoxian's current situation was very awkward. Because she had taken the initiative to join the demon race, her reputation had long been ruined. She had the title of countess, and no one cared about her at all. This was something that Feng Ruoxian could not tolerate. She had ambitions. How could she be willing to remain silent and have no visitors? Therefore, Feng Ruoxian thought of Ling Han. The current Ling Han could be said to be very popular. He had 2 Grandmaster titles and was ranked second in the Hong Tian steps. If she could appear in public with Ling Han, she could naturally wash away her image. This was why Butler Mu came to visit. Because Butler Mu and Ling Han had some friendship. Ling Han shook his head. "Butler Mu, this is too much." "Is that so?" Butler Mu smiled. Actually, he also knew that Feng Ruoxian had shed all pretense of cordiality with Ling Han. Now that she wanted Ling Han's help, it would be strange if he would agree. But Feng Ruoxian was already like a crazy demon. He could not bear to see her like this, so he made this trip. He hated in his heart. Back then, he wanted to entrust Feng Ruoxian to Ling Han. If Feng Ruoxian was not so arrogant, the two of them would most likely be a couple now. Thinking about how glorious Ling Han was now, how could he be inferior to any of the princes? Sigh, he deserved it. He turned around and left, his figure desolate. Chapter 3404. Grand Duke Bao thought about it. He definitely couldn't lose, so he was fearless even if he had to bet his life. "Fine, I'll bet my life with you." He slammed the table. Ling Han laughed heartily. "Your life isn't worth anything. I wouldn't want it even if you gave it to me. Sigh, if you couldn't talk, I could still kill you for food. But since you can talk, how am I supposed to eat you? Fuck, I can't let you eat me. Or is it my fault? Wait, how can I lose?" Grand Duke Bao flew into a rage. "Ling Han, you're clearly the one who's afraid of losing." Ling Han sighed. "Do you have any treasure fruits?" Grand Duke Bao shook his head reflexively. "Then how many jade seeds do you have?" "More than 10,000. Grand Duke Bao was once again swayed. Ling Han sighed. "Since you don't have any treasure fruits or jade seeds, I can't eat you even if I kill you. What use do I have for you?" Grand Duke Bao froze, then fumed with anger. It turned out that Ling Han was still teasing him. He thought about it and said, "Fine, I'll bet my panther race's ultimate technique, drifting wind and cloud." "Brother Bao! Brother Bao!" The 2 demons beside him hurriedly called out, their expressions urgent. Drifting wind and cloud is a secret technique of the panther race. It can't be passed on to outsiders, especially not to a human. Grand Duke Bao snorted and said with dissatisfaction, "Do you think I'll lose?" "Of course not, but..." The 2 hesitated. "Since I won't lose, then what's the big bet?" Grand Duke Bao said coldly. Then he slammed the table again and said to Ling Han, "What do you think?" Ling Han was astounded. "How did you know that I'm currently lacking a movement technique?" Seeing Ling Han's stunned expression, Great Elder Bao thought that he had been too clever for his own good. He had thought that he would be able to intimidate him with some kind of bet, but he had never thought that he would actually dare to accept his challenge, directly causing Ling Han to be unable to retreat. He couldn't help but sneer. "I've already placed a bet. Are you afraid?" "Sure." Ling Han stood up. "If it's just to get beaten up, I won't bother wasting my energy. But since there's a movement technique that I can take a look at, I'll reluctantly do it." Grand Duke Bao was so angry that he almost died. "They hadn't even started fighting yet, and you're already saying that I'm no match for you?" He did not flare up. Since Ling Han had already agreed to the challenge, he could vent his anger in the battle later. He strode forward and was about to walk into the spacious courtyard. Ling Han waved his hand and said, "That won't do. You have to take out the wager first. How do I know you won't go back on your word after you lose?" "All right. Right now, Grand Elder Leopard only wanted Ling Han to fight. Everything else could be compromised." "Then let's ask Her Highness to be the notary." Ling Han smiled. Just then he saw Princess Baishao walk out. She immediately became the center of attention and was surrounded by countless people. Be it humans or demons, all of them looked at Princess Baishao fervently. Ling Han strode over, but the crowd was too dense. He could not squeeze through it all unless he used violence. He smiled and called out, "Princess Baishao, Princess Baishao." Instantly, everyone turned their heads to look at him. Each and every one of them had a look of disdain on their faces. How could this person not know the rules? How could he make such a big fuss in such an occasion? The crowd parted, and Princess Baishao walked out. Her beautiful eyes were full of charm. She was definitely the most beautiful person Ling Han had seen since entering the new world. Princess Baishao glanced at Ling Han and said, "So it's Grandmaster Ling. You've changed your mind?" Ling Han smiled and waved his hand. "Let's not talk about this today. One of your subordinates wants to challenge me, and everyone knows that if there's no wager, why would I accept the challenge? So, I'd like to ask Her Highness to be the notary and take care of the wager in case someone goes back on their word. Have you had enough?" Grand Elder Leopard roared. "I'm the son of the dignified leopard chief. How can I go back on my word? One must always be on guard." "I'm not familiar with you," Ling Han said lightly. Princess Baishao looked at Grand Elder Leopard and said, "You really have to bet with him?" "Yes, Your Highness," Grand Elder Leopard said respectfully. He did not know that Princess Baishao was a mystery realm expert, but Baishao was too beautiful. Even the youths of the demon race were in love with her. Princess Baishao thought about it and said, "All right, hand over the wager to me." Grand Elder Leopard looked at Ling Han hatefully. This brat actually dared to drag Her Highness into this. However, he still took out a book and walked over to hand it over to Baishao. "Ling Han, where's your wager?" Princess Baishao asked Ling Han. Grand Elder Leopard had lost his sense of propriety because of Ling Han's provocation, but how could she? "That's right, how could I forget about this? I was only focused on getting angry." Grand Elder Leopard scratched his head. Ling Han nodded, took out an item from his bosom, and threw it to Princess Baishao. This action displeased everyone. She was a peerless beauty. How could he treat her so disrespectfully? However, when they saw what Ling Han had tossed out, a strange expression appeared on most of their faces. Some demonic beasts were so enraged that they jumped up. Ling Han had only thrown out a jade seed. Did he think a jade seed was worth the same as a demon's cultivation technique? What kind of humiliation was this? "Ling Han, you've gone too far. Do you think my demon's cultivation technique is only worth a jade seed? You're humiliating us." Many members of the demonic beast race roared in fury, wanting nothing more than to skin Ling Han alive. Ling Han sneered. "What a joke. Grand Elder Leopard is challenging me now. Of course, he has to follow my rules. If you're not convinced, you can choose not to fight. I'm not forcing him with a knife to his neck." He paused and looked at Grand Elder Leopard. "Do you still want to fight?" Grand Elder Leopard gritted his teeth and said, "Fine, let's fight." He believed that he wouldn't lose. Moreover, Ling Han and Hong Tianbu were the only two nemeses of the demon race. Thus, he had to defeat them at all costs and restore the demon race's invincible reputation. All the demons nodded slowly. The purpose of fighting Ling Han wasn't about the stakes, but to establish the demon race's invincible image. Under such circumstances, no matter how harsh Ling Han's conditions were, they would actually agree. "Then let's begin," Princess Baishao said. Her beautiful eyes shone with the light of wisdom. Ling Han and Grand Elder Leopard moved to the courtyard. It was very, very large, with fake mountains and ponds. It was exquisite beyond compare, but once the battle began, this place would be reduced to ruins. It didn't matter. They just had to rebuild it. "Ling Han, I'm at the 3rd tier of the ultimate bone realm, but when I fight you, I will suppress my strength to the blood transformation realm and fight you fairly," Grand Elder Leopard said indifferently. Now that they were really going to fight, he actually calmed down. This was the kind of reaction a genius should have. Ling Han shook his head. "There's no need to suppress my cultivation. Since I'm willing to fight, I don't need anyone to give me a chance." Hiss, this was a big one. Grand Elder Leopard sneered. You said that yourself. Chapter 3405. The humans shook their heads. Why did Ling Han have to be so stubborn? What they didn't know was that since Ling Han wanted to cheat Great Leopard Elder of his movement skills, he naturally couldn't let him suppress his cultivation. Otherwise, he would have something to say after he lost. Furthermore, Ling Han did not care whether his opponent was at 3 bones or 5 bones. Since they were both at the ultimate bone realm, he would definitely win. There were no conditions for being invincible among those of the same level, unless someone was like Ling Han, who had once reached the 7 transformations in the blood transformation realm. This was impossible. Therefore, he did not need to take advantage of Great-Grandfather Bao. Junior Leopard, come on. Ling Han crooked his finger at Grand Elder Leopard. You're courting death. Grand Elder Leopard exerted strength in his legs and burst forward. In an instant he had reached 5 times the speed of sound. Normally, the speed of an ultimate bone realm martial artist should be 2 times the speed of sound. However, this fellow had clearly not activated his blood chi seething, yet his speed had reached 5 times the speed of sound. Clearly, this was the specialty of his race. Leopards were good at speed. Ling Han smiled faintly. With his hands behind his back, he also sprang forward at 5 times the speed of sound. Both of them were traveling at 5 times the speed of sound. One was advancing while the other was retreating. They maintained a considerable distance from each other and were unable to shorten the distance. Grand Elder Leopard snorted and challenged him to a race of speed. You're so naive. He let out a soft roar, and a rhythmic sound came from his body. Then his speed began to soar. 5 times the speed of sound. This was extremely shocking. Without boiling blood chi, he was actually able to increase his speed to a level that surpassed the engravement realm. It could be said that with just this kind of speed, he could challenge those in the engravement realm. Ling Han, on the other hand, stopped in his tracks. Competing in speed with the Panther race, a race that was naturally good at running, there was no need. He clenched his fist. He didn't even need to use his eye sorcery. All he needed to do was capture it with his divine sense. Then he threw a punch at Grand Elder Leopard. His speed couldn't reach 4 times the speed of sound, but he could attack without any difficulty. Grand Elder Leopard sneered. You finally dare to confront me head-on? He had the cultivation of 3 bones, and he was also a monster. His battle prowess surpassed the peak of the 5 bones, but the Great Realm was too difficult to cross, and it was difficult for him to reach the height of the engravement realm. However, it was absolutely impossible for Ling Han to possess the cultivation of the engravement realm. In this world, there was no one whose battle prowess could cross 2 great realms. Shwa! He threw a punch. Boom! The 2 men's fists instantly collided, causing a huge shockwave, and everyone saw an inconceivable scene. Ling Han stood firmly where he was, while Great Elder Bao staggered and retreated repeatedly. Damn, what's going on? Grand Duke Bao was no match for Ling Han. A 3-bone expert was actually not a match for a blood transformation expert. Furthermore, this 3-bone expert was a demon race genius with unrivaled power within the same realm. Who can believe that? Ling Han broke into a grin and asked, Kitty, are we still going to fight? The leopard great-grandfather was instantly enraged. Although the leopard was also a feline, its bloodline was extremely noble. How could a wild cat compare to it? Similarly, young Master Cat was also enraged. However, he was defeated by Ling Han, so he could only feel gloomy. I underestimated you, the leopard great-grandfather said coldly. He took a deep breath and adjusted his condition. He was still full of confidence. Although his original strength was inferior to Ling Han's, his speed clearly gave him the upper hand. Moreover, the demon race's eruption could come and go as they pleased, so he had the absolute initiative. Thus, after he erupted, Ling Han could only retreat and defend. If he defended for too long, he would definitely lose. And if Ling Han's blood chi also erupted, then the leopard great-grandfather would use his speed to increase the distance between them. As long as he could endure for 10 minutes, He would be able to launch a frontal attack and defeat Ling Han in his explosive state. This was the strength of the demon race. They could suppress the human race in all aspects. Boom, his blood chi surged, but it only caused all the hair on his body to stand on end. His power surged and his strength soared. Xiao, he attacked once again. With his blood chi surging, coupled with the special movement technique of the leopard race, his speed soared to 4 times the speed of sound. He was indescribably fast. There was a hint of a smile at the corner of Ling Han's mouth. He used his eye technique, and instantly, the movement of heaven and earth slowed down. As for the leopard great-grandfather's movements, they seemed to become block by block, allowing Ling Han to see everything clearly. He swung out his fist. Thunder Light Fist. The power of the Thunder Light Fist was not as great as that of the Demon Monkey Fist, but it had one characteristic, and that was its speed. It was as fast as light. Xiao xiao xiao. Fist after fist blasted towards the leopard great-grandfather. With the speed at which the leopard great-grandfather was moving, what were the chances of him dodging the Thunder Light Fist? An expression of shock spread across Great Elder Bao's face. Logically speaking, with his high speed, Ling Han should not have been able to track his movements at all. However, the truth was the exact opposite. The power of Ling Han's fists was still surging towards him. There was no way to dodge. The leopard great-grandfather could only block Ling Han's attacks with his hands in front of his body. In that instant, he was hit by hundreds of attacks. His figure was forced to a stop, and then he was sent flying backwards. A complete defeat. Everyone was stunned. The leopard great-grandfather was already boiling, and his battle prowess had doubled. Yet he was still no match for Ling Han. This was too shocking. Ling Han retracted his fists and said, "How about it? Do you still want to fight?" The leopard great-grandfather bared his teeth. This opponent was powerful, and his eyesight was terrifying. Even though he was moving at 4 times the speed of sound, Ling Han was still able to accurately track his movements, and then force him to a stop with a torrential barrage of attacks. It didn't matter if his speed was inferior, as long as his attack speed was high enough. Do I still want to fight? The leopard great-grandfather was also asking himself this question. From the bottom of his heart, he didn't want to fight anymore. Ling Han gave him a powerful pressure, and he had no confidence in winning. But for the sake of the Yao race's dignity, his current battle prowess was not at a disadvantage, so how could he have the nerve to give up? From the moment he challenged Ling Han, this was no longer a battle between the two of them, but a battle between the Yao race and the human race. "Fight!" the leopard great-grandfather said heavily. His hands shook, and black energy wrapped around his sharp claws, causing his hands to appear incomparably large. The Yao race was naturally adept at using high-level energy, and this was another advantage of the Yao race. The Yao race is invincible. The leopard great-grandfather attacked again. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. He waved his claws, and instantly, streaks of black claw marks flew towards Ling Han, forming a dense net that covered the sky and covered the earth. Ling Han humphed and once again punched out. This time, he also activated the golden energy. Boom! As he punched out, even he was shocked. This golden energy was too vast, and in comparison, the black energy of the leopard great-grandfather was practically trash. The strength of high-level energy was determined by 2 factors, purity and quantity. In terms of purity, Ling Han's golden energy was denser, and in terms of quantity, Ling Han's was at least 3 times the size of the leopard great-grandfather's. Both of these factors were ruthlessly left far behind by Ling Han. How could they possibly compare? Boom! The golden fist blasted out, forming a complete crushing force, and the black claw marks were instantly annihilated. Chapter 3406. Elder Leopard was startled and hurriedly ran. The golden energy came crashing over. If he didn't dodge, he would be crushed to pieces. Ling Han smiled and used his lightning fist, infusing it with the golden energy. Xiao xiao xiao, it filled the sky. His mental energy had greatly improved, and he could afford to squander it like this. Elder Leopard didn't dare to take it at all. His strength wasn't enough, and his high-level energy wasn't enough either. But 10 minutes later, he immediately slowed down. The explosive period was over. Peng, how could he dodge the lightning fist? His entire body was instantly sent flying, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. All the demonic beasts were completely speechless. This was a crushing defeat in terms of raw strength, and they had no excuse. I lost. Elder Leopard still had some poise. His eyes were dim. He had been defeated by a human, and one who was weaker than him by a major realm. This had seriously damaged his confidence. How could he be called a genius? Ling Han walked toward Princess Bai Xiao and stopped about 10 feet in front of her. Princess, please give me the wager. Princess Bai Xiao looked at Ling Han. Her expression was very calm, but there was a strange look in her eyes. This was killing intent. Ling Han knew that his performance was too heaven-defying, and this demonic princess wanted to kill him. If he rose up in the future and became a great threat to the demonic beasts, it was very likely that he would become another Chen Fengyan. But what could he do? He hadn't even used his ultimate move, and Elder Leopard had been defeated. He was too weak. In the end, Princess Bai Xiao didn't dare to make a move. Chen Fengyan was too strong. With his own strength, he had intimidated the demonic beasts into submission. It could be said that as long as Chen Fengyan didn't die, the demonic beasts wouldn't dare to rebel. She raised her hand and instantly, the book and a jade seed were thrown toward Ling Han. Ling Han caught them and smiled. Princess, you've made the right choice to be a witness. It's fair. Princess Bai Xiao suddenly had the urge to beat someone up. Did she want to hand over the demon race's secret technique to Ling Han? Of course not. On the contrary, she wanted to obtain the demon monkey fist from Ling Han. However, she was in the imperial capital, so how could she dare to make a move so easily? After Ling Han took the secret manual, he sat to the side and immediately began to read it. He just so happened to lack a movement technique. Reading 10 lines at a glance, he roughly flipped through it and couldn't help but smile. This drifting wind and cloud body technique could be used all the way to the secret realm. Once mastered, it could even allow a martial artist to reach twice the speed of sound. Thus, Great Leopard Grand Elder didn't practice drifting wind and cloud to the highest level. Otherwise, with the speed of the leopard race and this movement technique, his speed would become incomparably terrifying. Perhaps he could rush up and kill his opponent without them even having a chance to react. Ling Han. A man from the Yao clan strode over. He was tall and slender, and on his back were 2 dark red wings. There was not a single feather on them. They were completely made of flesh. Young Master Bat is going to make a move. This is the #1 expert in the extreme bone realm. Once he makes a move, it'll be a sure win. He's only 22 years old this year, similar to this human. Thus, although his cultivation level is much higher, it'll still be a fair fight. All the Yao clan members spoke one after another. They were full of confidence in this man. His name was Fu Kuan, and he came from the Bat clan. Just as the Yao clan members had said, he was the #1 expert in the extreme bone realm. If they wanted to suppress Ling Han and restore the Yao clan's invincible reputation, they could only rely on Fu Kuan. Otherwise, even if they had Ying Pakong, Hu Er, and the others, they were all much older than Ling Han. They could only suppress their cultivation level and fight again. If they suppressed their cultivation level to the same level, it would be hard to say whether they could defeat Ling Han. Hong Tianbu and Ling Han were both heaven-suppressing monstrous geniuses. Thus, Fu Kuan was the best candidate to fight against Ling Han. Do you dare to fight? Fu Kuan challenged Ling Han. Ling Han was currently flipping through drifting wind and clouds, and the more he read, the more fascinated he became. The almighty expert of the Yao clan who created this movement technique was truly overflowing with talent. Ling Han. Fu Kuan couldn't help but feel annoyed. This human actually dared to ignore him? If not for the sake of the Yao clan's reputation, he really wanted to directly make a move and not wait for Ling Han to agree to a battle. Only then did Ling Han raise his head impatiently. Do you know the rules? Is it appropriate to make a fuss in this kind of situation? Do you have any upbringing? Fu Kuan was instantly stunned and only regained his senses after a while. He was so angry that he spread his wings. Who didn't know the rules? It was clearly you, but you acted as if you didn't hear what I said. If not for that, would he need to make a fuss? He suppressed his anger and said, I challenge you. Ling Han raised his head and looked at him with a calm expression. Fu Kun explained, although I have the cultivation of 5 bones, I am only 22 years old. It can't be considered bullying you. It was true that a battle between people of the same cultivation level was fair, but a battle between people of similar age was also fair. If your cultivation level was low, it was because you didn't work hard enough, you didn't have enough talent, and you didn't have enough opportunities. It was impossible for others to accommodate you. Ling Han smiled leisurely and said, Hee hee, do you know the rules for challenging me? Damn, you want to bet again? Fu Kun snorted and said, What do you want to bet? And what do you have? Ling Han countered. Fu Kun's gaze was awe-inspiring. He wasn't an idiot like Great Leopard Elder who would foolishly take out a bet. He used his dark red eyes to sweep across the crowd and said, I bet on this person. He leapt out, and when he returned, he was already carrying a person in his hand. If you win, you can take him back. Otherwise, I will beat him up until he starts questioning his life. It's none of my business, let go of me. The person who was caught immediately struggled. Ling Han took a look and couldn't help but have a strange expression. He smiled and said, I've never been a person who accepts threats. It was quite a coincidence that the person Fu Kun had caught was Hu Yang. Hu Yang screamed and said, Ling Han, you're using your position to avenge a private grudge. Ling Han only chuckled and continued to flip through the wind and clouds. This was truly worth studying. Only then did Fu Kun realize that he had made a mistake. He had actually caught an enemy of Ling Han. What use was this kind of threat? He stretched out his hand and threw Hu Yang away. Then, with a whoosh, he flew out again and caught another person. Ling Han, do you want to be a coward of the human race? He said coldly. Ling Han took another look and almost burst out laughing. Because this time, it was even more coincidental that the person Fu Kun had caught was Gu Xiangming. However, he controlled himself very well and said solemnly, Don't involve innocent people. Hurry up and let him go. Gu Xiangming almost vomited blood. He had paid a huge price to sneak in with a person who had an invitation. He had ambitions and didn't want to be a squad leader of the Imperial Guards for the rest of his life. This was an excellent opportunity to expand his network. But how could he have imagined that he would be caught by Fu Kun to threaten Ling Han? What was even more infuriating was that Ling Han actually pretended that the two of them had a good relationship. If that was the case, would Fu Kun let him go? You're so vicious. As expected, Fu Kun naturally wouldn't let go. He forcefully squeezed Gu Xiangming's arm and said coldly, Ling Han, are you going to fight or not? Chapter 3408. And this could be used to forge flying swords. Ling Han felt that his 9 flying swords couldn't keep up with his cultivation. Ling Han nodded, Okay, I'll accept it. Accept your sister, have you already won? Hu Sihai snorted, I'm a 3-vein. I'll tell you first in case you say that I'm bullying you. Exchanging blood with inscriptions, this was already bullying to the point where it couldn't get any worse. But who asked Ling Han to challenge him? Ling Han smiled faintly, beckoning with his finger, Come. Hu Sihai raised his hands and sharp nails popped out. Each nail was comparable to an engravement realm-level weapon. The fiend race was strong in all aspects in the early stages. Ling Han placed his hands behind his back, looking calm and relaxed. How arrogant, but now is the only time. Hu Sihai said as he charged out. With the support of 3 times the speed of sound, he instantly charged in front of Ling Han, then slashed out with his claw. Ling Han grinned, raising his fist to meet the attack. Bang! The force collided, immediately causing a huge collision, and then both sides were annihilated. What? Everyone's eyes widened, revealing expressions of disbelief. Ling Han could actually fight against an inscription realm, and a 3-vein existence at that. Furthermore, he was a genius of the tiger race. Hu Sihai wasn't as monstrous as Yuan Ying, able to fight across a realm, but his battle strength had also reached 5-vein. This was the most inconceivable part. Ling Han actually wasn't at a disadvantage. What a joke, how could there be such a powerful blood-changing realm? Ling Han bared his teeth and waved his hand. This tiger's strength was still really great. Even if he used a high-frequency attack, there was still a portion of the tiger's power that hadn't dissipated, causing his hand to feel a little numb. Princess Bai Xiao revealed a smile. Congratulations, Master Ling, for entering the extreme bone realm. Pooh! Everyone spluttered. What? Ling Han had actually broken through to the pinnacle bone tier. No wonder he could contend against Hu Sihai. A monster like Hong Tianbu could indeed cross a large realm and still be invincible. That's not right. Didn't this fellow repeatedly injure his foundation in the blood transformation realm? It's impossible for him to break through to the extreme bone realm. How did he manage to do it? A monster. Great Leopard immediately reacted and shouted, "So you're at the extreme bone realm. You tricked me." Ling Han looked over and said, "So what if I'm at the extreme bone realm? Did I bully you?" The Great Elder Leopard was speechless. So what if Ling Han was at the ultimate bone realm? It wasn't like he was suppressing his own realm. Furthermore, Ling Han had just broken through, while he was at the three-bone realm. Although they were both at the ultimate bone realm, he was definitely at an advantage. You can't even win like this, and you still have the face to be a weirdo? He didn't say anything else. Otherwise, he would only be asking for humiliation. Extreme bone realm. Hu Sihai snorted. He had the advantage of a whole realm, so he should be able to win. He attacked again, like a ferocious tiger pouncing on its prey. Ling Han used the demon monkey fist. Against an expert with 5-lined battle prowess, there was no way he could hold back anymore. Boom! An ancient demon monkey appeared, fusing with the baleful aura that Ling Han had formed during the 7 transformations, and pressed down on Hu Sihai. One had to know that Ling Han's baleful aura could even affect Yuaning. Hu Sihai was definitely no match for Yuaning, so how could he possibly block it? His momentum had been snatched away, and he couldn't help but be stunned. Although he immediately recovered, he was still affected, and the power of his palm strike was greatly reduced. Bang! The two of them clashed again, and Hu Sihai was instantly sent flying. Ling Han took advantage of the situation to pursue and attack. His fists spread out, and he continued to attack. Hu Sihai did his best to parry. His strength was actually above Ling Han's, and logically speaking, he shouldn't be afraid of fighting head-on with Ling Han. However, under the suppression of his momentum, he was unable to fully display his battle prowess, and was actually at a disadvantage in such a confrontation. Everyone was speechless. A peerless genius. I think that calling him number 2 in the Hongtian steps is actually a grievance. He's him, Ling Han. That's right, the Hongtian steps is the Hongtian steps, and Ling Han is Ling Han. They are both monstrous geniuses that can suppress the heavens, and there is no such thing as one being number 2. The humans all nodded. Previously, no matter how monstrous Ling Han's performance was, everyone's highest evaluation of him was the number 2 in the Hongtian steps. There were even many people who felt that Ling Han wasn't worthy of this title. Especially when Ling Han had injured the foundation of his martial art, everyone felt that Ling Han could only stop at the blood transformation realm, and that he was even more unworthy of the title of number 2 in the Hongtian steps. But now, not only had Ling Han advanced into the ultimate bone realm, he had also continued the legend of being a monstrous genius. So what if he was a 3-vein expert? He could still suppress him. Ling Han let out a long howl. He discovered that he had still underestimated the power of the demon monkey fist, as well as the power of the baleful aura formed by the 7 transformations. He had originally thought that he could only contend against 3-vein experts, but now it seemed that even 3-vein experts could be defeated, being invincible across a realm. Father is indeed father. Amazing! 6th baby mumbled. Even in the era of legends, I'm afraid that only peerless divine sons and goddesses could compare to father. Insignificant human. Hu Sihai roared. He didn't want to be nailed to death on the monument of shame. He had the advantage of a whole realm, but he still had to be defeated by Ling Han. His opponent was a human. He roared, and all the hair on his body stood up. his strength instantly increased by more than 2 times. Ferocious Tiger Palm. Hu Sihai used his ultimate move, and palm after palm struck out. With the addition of the power from his blood qi seething, the power of his palms had reached an indescribable level. Boom! Under the entanglement of the black energy, Hu Siping's battle prowess had already surpassed the peak of 5-vein level. Ling Han didn't dare to take it head-on. After all, his strength was only about 1 vein, and taking this kind of power head-on was definitely seeking death. However, he didn't blood qi seething. Instead, he used his spiritual energy. Xiao, a cold light shot towards Hu Sihai. At 7 times the speed of sound, it would be difficult for ordinary ultimate bone realm cultivators to even catch the trajectory. It was extremely likely that they would only react after being hit by the sword. Insignificant skill, Hu Sihai said disdainfully, and he waved his palm to meet the flying sword. Pooh! Blood instantly spurted out of his palm. Hu Sihai felt pain. He saw a small sword piercing his palm, and it didn't even reach the hilt. He couldn't help but be shocked. When the demon race used their full power, the increase in power was indeed not as great as the secret power of the human race, but their defense would also increase. Overall, they wouldn't be weaker than the human race. However, under the situation where his defense had increased dramatically, his palm was still pierced by Ling Han's sword. How terrifying was this attack power? What a powerful psychokinesis, he said. It could actually pierce through his palm. The power was really terrifying. Moreover, if the sword had pierced his eye instead of his palm, what would have happened? Human race, Hu Sihai said through gritted teeth. Before stepping onto the celestial path, the demon race completely crushed the human race. However, it wasn't that the human race didn't have any advantages, and that was psychokinesis. The demon race was born with a strong physique, and with the addition of their secret power and physical strength, they definitely surpassed martial artists of the same level in terms of power. However, when it came to psychokinesis, the demon race was at a disadvantage. Thus, there were almost no alchemists or formation masters in the demon race. The opponent in front of him gave him a feeling that it was extremely difficult to deal with. Reading on a mobile phone. Chapter 3409. Ling Han smiled and said, "Little kitty, if you don't fight, I'll take it as you admit defeat." Of course, Hu Sihai wouldn't admit defeat. He roared and pounced at Ling Han. Shwa, 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 he waved his claws at high speed, creating claw prints that were entwined with black energy and had amazing destructive power. Ling Han used wind and cloud float, and his feet moved freely. His fists also punched out, creating golden fist prints. On the other hand, he also moved the surrounding gravel and threw it out at an amazing speed. Although it couldn't be compared to the lethality of the flying swords, it had the advantage of having sufficient quantity. Using the materials on the ground, it was an endless stream. Pu, piu, piu, these stones hit Hu Sihai's body and smashed into pieces, but they didn't cause much damage to Hu Sihai. Even so, Hu Sihai's figure still staggered, and his attacks were completely out of shape. Ah! Hu Sihai roared at the sky. He had never been so aggrieved before. He clearly had the advantage in strength, but he was being suppressed. An ominous light flashed in his eyes. "Human, you forced me to do this." He emitted a terrifying ferocious aura. He was originally standing, but now he was crawling on the ground, like a fierce tiger. Pa pa pa, the clothes on his body split open, and a huge tiger really appeared. He had returned to his original form. These demons all ate the transformation fruit, which was why they became human, but as long as they wanted, they could return to their original form at any time. In fact, this was their most powerful battle form. But Hu Sihai was clearly a big spotted tiger, but his body was emitting a white brilliance, making him look like a white tiger. So the legend is true, Hu Sihai has a trace of the white tiger divine beast's bloodline. Although it's just a trace, the white tiger is a terrifying existence. Just a trace of the bloodline is enough to make his battle power incomparably terrifying. Many demons exclaimed. They thought that Hu Sihai having the white tiger bloodline was just a rumor, but they didn't expect it to be true. The white tiger's bloodline is too thin. It will take at least a few years to recover after using it once. Someone with sharp eyes quickly saw through it. No wonder Husihai never activates his bloodline in battle. It's because it's a trump card among trump cards. Every time he uses it, he has to rest for several years. It can only be used once in a few years. Husihai's outbreak is absolutely terrifying. For the sake of the demon race's dignity, he has to fight with everything he has. Yes, this is for the dignity of our demon race. In the midst of the discussion of the demon race, Husihai suddenly let out a roar, his voice rolling like thunder. Many people only felt a rumbling in their ears and directly lost consciousness, falling to the ground and fainting. This was the might of an engravement stage expert who had even activated the bloodline of an ancient divine beast. The might of a single roar was something that even an extreme bone stage expert would find hard to endure. Ling Han was shocked as he didn't expect Husihai to have such a move. Why didn't you use it against Hong Tian steps back then? Yes, when he faced the Hong Tian steps, Husihai's strength was too lacking. Even if he used this move, it would be useless. Moreover, at that time, it didn't rise to the issue of the dignity of the two races, so he didn't need to go all out. This time was different. He had the advantage in cultivation, and he was fighting for the demon race's dignity. If he lost to Ling Han, then it wouldn't be too much to say that he was a sinner of the demon race. If he didn't use his ultimate move, then if others found out about it in the future, he would be condemned by thousands of people. Therefore, Husihai had to go all out. Then let's see what was so special about the white tiger's bloodline. Husihai roared again, and with each roar, the aura he emitted became a bit more berserk. Gradually, the image of a white tiger appeared behind him. It couldn't be seen clearly, but it gave people a feeling that it was millions of meters long. Ling Han, in front of the glory of my ancestor, you can't even be considered a green onion, said Husihai. He waved his claw at Ling Han, and the image of the white tiger pounced towards Ling Han. It was too terrifying. The white tiger was a legendary divine beast. Even if it was just an indistinct image, it was still incomparably powerful. Ling Han didn't dare to be careless. He lightly shouted and used the demon monkey fist. His baleful aura surged, and an ancient demon monkey also appeared. A strange scene appeared. Originally, although this demon monkey's baleful aura was soaring, it lacked intelligence. But when it saw the white tiger, it suddenly became lively. A set of golden battle armor appeared on its body, and a rod appeared in its hand. It couldn't be seen what material it was made of, only incomparably complicated symbols could be seen on it. It stood there with its feet on the ground and its head in the sky. That iron rod seemed to be able to overturn the sky with just a slight movement. Not only that, but the image of the white tiger also became real. Its body was billions of meters long, and it was even larger than the sun. It filled the sky. The tiger and monkey images stood facing each other, as if they had traveled through time and space. This is. Princess Bai Xiao immediately became incomparably excited. She was originally sitting, but now she suddenly stood up. Her hands were clenched tightly, and her delicate body was trembling slightly. Oh, there's actually a trace of a connection that transcends time and space. Sixth baby said in surprise. Although her cultivation level wasn't high, she had an innate ability and was proficient in spatial secret techniques. She was very sensitive to space. I can sense that a supreme will has appeared here from an infinitely distant spacetime. No, it's two. Don't tell me that the monkey and the ancient white tiger who created this fist technique are still alive. It's already been tens of millions of years. No existence can still be alive. Yes, although these two wills are supreme, they are incomparably weak. It should be that the white tiger and the demon monkey were too powerful back then, and they were engraved with Tao marks by heaven and earth. Now that their bloodlines have encountered a secret technique, heaven and earth have reacted. That must be it. Sixth baby nodded as if she was trying to convince herself. The demon monkey suddenly moved. It raised its iron rod and struck at the white tiger. The white tiger met it head-on and swung its claws at the iron rod. It was clearly just an image, But when the tiger claws and the iron rod collided, a terrifying wave of murderous aura surged. Bang 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 bang. Everyone fell to the ground. Except for 3. Ling Han, Princess Bai Xiao, and 6th baby. A pale yellow halo appeared on Princess Bai Xiao's body and condensed into the shape of a monkey. It looked somewhat similar to the demon monkey in the sky. She was able to resist the attack of the murderous aura not because she was at the secret-seeking realm, but because of this halo. Ling Han was completely different. In his body, there were billions of planes, and every living being had their own will. This one will was naturally nothing, but when the countless living beings in billions of planes combined, it was powerful enough to resist the attack of the murderous aura. 6th baby, she wasn't even in this space-time, so how could she be affected? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.